Hey there, guys. How you doing today? It's good to see so many people here early. Nice to see I got a few folks joining in right off the bat, especially since I don't do live streams too often. So I'm glad to be here to do this. I'm a little out of practice on live streams, so I'm trying to figure out if I'm seeing the live chat or ah, gotta mute that. Let's see here. Hopefully I'm not muting anything important. Everything coming through okay? Okay, let's see. The chat looks like I'm getting the same thing in both places. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't only seeing comments on the video, making sure I'm seeing the live chat show up in my actual chat box here. All right, so you know what? I'm excited to be able to have a chance to talk with you guys directly for once. I feel like it's such a one-way conversation when I'm making videos all the time. And even though I get to answer a lot of comments, I love being able to answer your comments. But sometimes you guys ask things about the video, and I'm like, gosh, I ain't got time to go back and watch the whole video to figure out what they're talking about. So I thought this would be a great way for us to have an opportunity to talk face to face a little bit. And maybe for some of you who have had questions for me, you can ask me now and we can talk about those things. I don't know much about all this, what do you call them, super chats and everything else. I'm not even sure if they'll show up, but I know that I can manually pump them up on the screen when I see them. So if you do something like that, I'll let you know, obviously, if you're spending any money to make a comment or ask a question, I'm going to move you right to the front. But I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I can. And while I'm waiting on some people to get here, I've actually got some preset questions that I went through and found about 20 questions from the past month. That way I could start the ball rolling that way. But before I jump into that, I just want to say I'm sorry I haven't been making a whole lot this week. You know, I try to keep a daily post routine, and sometimes that is just so hard to do when you're still working a full-time job and trying to live normal life and trying to have a family and spend time with them. And today was one of those unusual circumstances where my wife and kids are going to be out of town. So I thought this is the perfect time to make up for the time I missed this week with you guys. And Katie and I kind of took a break this past Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. She didn't go to karate class. She didn't take the boys anywhere. And we just kind of relaxed and stayed home and got ourselves regrounded after what seems like 2 straight years of nonstop going full speed 24 hours a day, except when we sleep. So it's been good to have a little bit of a recharge. But I get angsty. I want to say anxious, but when I'm not putting something out to speak to you guys, there's 2 things that go through my mind. One is I don't want to just put out something to put out something. I want to be able to bring something to the game, bring something that's going to actually help you guys and not just be making content for the sake of content. But at the same time, I know there's so many of you who get inspiration from the things I talk about. And I got to tell you, I'm as surprised as anybody I know to realize that my words have such an effect on so many other people. So I feel blessed to have the opportunity to speak with you folks and to be able to hopefully encourage you to get healthier and happier and get your mental health straight, get your spiritual life straight. I want to go ahead and re-mention the disclaimer that I put up on the screen earlier. I'll show it to you here real quick. Let me unmute my microphone so I can tell you as I read it. I am not a medical doctor or nutritionist. By the way, this was shared by Dr. Barry, and I really liked it, so I thought this would be a great way to start. So I'm not a medical doctor or nutritionist, so please check with your obese doctor and malnourished nutritionist if eating the meat your ancestors have eaten for millions of years. I debate that one about how long it's been, but I'm not going to argue because I still think that we have been eating meat since the dawn of man, regardless of how long it's been. If eating for millions of years is right for you, or if you are better off sticking with the industrial sludge which sponsors them. I totally agree with what he's saying there in the fact that we are We have been led down the wrong path when it comes to health from our food industry and from our medical industry. I think there's a lot of people who went on this path unwittingly. Maybe, what's the word Jordan Peterson always says? Willfully blind. And I think a lot of us went along willfully blind. I think a lot of us put too much faith in doctors. I watch a lot of old movies, and I pick up from pop culture that especially in the older movies, you hear people say, oh yeah, you got to listen to your doctor. I mean, they treat their doctor like that's their boss. Like that's the end all be all of answers. And maybe back then, a lot of doctors did have information that was at least useful, or they were really taking into account what's going to make somebody healthy. But there's no doubt that the medical industry and the food industry have gotten together and tainted this whole thing, along with government, to be honest with you, and made it difficult for us to get healthy because we're being told a lot of things that are just basically not true about health and nutrition, and it's led us all down a bad path for a long time. I mean, as far back as I can remember, when I was born in the 1970s, I remember the kind of the dawn of TV dinners becoming a normal thing. And really, they weren't normal then. That was the kind of thing we joked about. We said, well, who's going to eat this garbage on a tin plate that you heat up somehow? I don't even know if we had microwaves yet. But we all knew that was definitely not the answer. And now here, 45 years later, that's just about all we eat, is the equivalent of what they had back then. And you know what? To be honest, maybe what they had back in those TV dinners might have been better than some of the stuff we have today, because we didn't have Roundup being sprayed on everything we eat, and we didn't have all these chemical concoctions and then genetic modified materials. So it's a tough road to navigate. It makes me think about, I met somebody today. This is the first time this ever happened when I'm out and about. I was at Sam's Club earlier, and a guy walked up to speak to me. I was actually on the phone with my wife, so it was a bit awkward for me, but I didn't mind it. I felt, wow, this is the first time this has happened. He said, hey, do you have a YouTube channel? I said, yeah, for Rigno Freedom. He says, yeah, the Carnivore channel. I've been watching you. I appreciate what you're doing. And that was unique for me. I've never had that happen before. I figured I'm not going to bump into anybody, even though there are quite a few people that told me they live in this area. I figure the odds of me running into one of my 41,000 plus subscribers right around here was pretty low. So that was a nice boost for me. But he mentioned something that was interesting, and hopefully I'm not putting him on the spot, but his wife is concerned about him starting a carnivore way of eating. And I'm glad, for one, that when he saw me, I had a cart full of meat, because my wife has been sticking with her carnivore diet pretty good. She still makes some mistakes, but oh my gosh, she has done so much better. But for him to be seeing me when I'm out and about and I'm doing the right thing and doing exactly what I preach right here on YouTube, I hope that encouraged him that I'm serious when I say that meat has changed things for me. Getting all this ultra-processed garbage out of my life has made my life better. Not just my health, not just my waist size, but my mental health, my spiritual life is better, and I can't stop singing the praises. And sometimes I feel like I've said it so many times that maybe I'm just preaching to the choir, but then I see so many people out there that are still unhealthy, clearly with metabolic disorders, suffering with all these different problems, walking around in pain with inflammation and problems, and they're still buying the same lie that meat is not healthy for you. And I'm going to keep saying it until there's enough people out there that we've switched this paradigm around and people start to say meat is what you need to be eating. At least that's my belief. All right, let's take a look here and see some of the questions that I had put together. Let's see, I got it ready to pop up on the screen here. The first one, and then I'll get to some of y'all's comments too, because I'm letting y'all have a chance to add some. All right, let's see. He was commenting on a video that I made about how I quit vaping. And he said, quit cold turkey 3 days ago. Insulin and cortisol is still way up. Heartburn, is that normal? And here was my response. Now, I had to do a little research to get this response because I had no idea about this stuff. But I did look into a few things, and I even used Bard to help me kind of narrow down some stuff. But the funny thing is that when I asked Bard to show me the sources, the source material it gave me wasn't the actual source material. I had to question him several times to say, hey, all right, give me the real article and not some article about something else. So this AI stuff is definitely not as good as we thought it was. But I did wind up looking into some of the articles and found some of the answers I was looking for. And it said quitting vaping could cause your insulin levels to rise in the short term because nicotine can cause insulin resistance. I had no idea about that. When you quit, your body may need to produce more insulin to keep blood sugar levels in check. When you quit, your body begins to eliminate the nicotine from your system, and this can lead to a temporary increase in insulin resistance as the cells adjust to the lack of nicotine. This can cause blood sugar levels to rise. Within a few weeks or months of quitting vaping, your body should adjust to the lack of nicotine and your insulin resistance should improve. Quitting vaping can actually help to improve insulin sensitivity in the long term. In the same way, quitting vaping could also cause your cortisol levels to rise in the short term because nicotine can suppress cortisol production, and your blood sugar regulation plays a role in that too. Quitting vaping could also cause heartburn in some people because nicotine can relax the lower esophageal sphincter, the muscle that separates the esophagus from the stomach. And when the LES relaxes, stomach acid can back up into the esophagus. Nicotine also increases stomach acid production, which can also contribute to heartburn, as well as other symptoms. And these things should lessen as nicotine is eventually removed from your body. You know, I made the mistake of hitting my wife's vape a few months back, and then I got hooked on that doggone thing again because that nicotine gets in your system, and it is like any other drug, something that you have to be able to break free from. And all I can say is one of the things that I've been able to do since doing Lion Diet is I used to always say to people, I have this addictive personality. I get addicted to whatever it is I like to do. And if it was smoking something or vaping or drinking or playing video games or a number of things that hit that dopamine button in our head that gives us that feel-good pleasure feeling that we like. The problem is that you wind up, you push that dopamine up, but it always balances back out. And sometimes when you push it up too high with things that are like drugs, whether it's nicotine or caffeine, and I don't want to start an argument about coffee, but all I can say is I like being free of these stimulants. I had a bout with coffee again recently too, and I'm weaning myself off of that right now. But the benefit I had before, when I didn't have any of these things for the first time, was so amazing because I felt like that was where I truly had some freedom. I had freedom from wanting to buy something that doesn't actually do anything for me. It just gives me a dopamine hit of some kind, or it maybe helps me relax a little bit. But I found that when I didn't have these things, it was easy to relax anyway. But then letting nicotine back in because it was easy just to give it a shot, give it a try and get hooked on it again. Letting caffeine back in when I decided after I was working a swing shift for several months that I needed some caffeine to boost me through the evening when I was working my late shift, when I got used to getting up at 4:30 every morning. It's hard to go to bed at midnight and then have to get up again at 4:30 the next day. So adjusting to that pushed me back into caffeine. But then I found that when I do coffee, even though everybody says they're fine, I found myself being more tired and more achy all the time. I don't know if this is the truth for everybody because I know that a lot of people have said they don't have that at all. So I'm not here to bemoan coffee, but I think the more you can get things out of your life that are just holding you in chains, those drugs and those different chemicals that affect your brain in a certain way to where you're living and breathing natural air and eating natural food on a regular basis, you'll probably have less problems complaining about the cost of meat. Now, inflation plays a role in that too, but I'm not here to talk about politics as much right now as I am just to stick with diet itself. And I think that, if you focus on getting some of the trash out of your life like that, you'll find you have more money for the things that actually make you feel better, for the things that actually help you to go and live life and enjoy things with your family and spend time with your family, because you're not wasting all your money on all these gimmick chemicals that are just designed to make us feel good for a little while. All right, let me take a look at some of these comments here and see what we got. Got desert greetings from Johnny Midas. And I need bigger text on this screen. I got a little laptop computer. I need to get a big monitor. The whole world eat meat, basically poor vegan, 6 years vegan, might be 10 and look at the face and doesn't look like people who eat meat. Okay, I don't think that was actually Donald Trump, but I'm not sure exactly what he said there. Let's see. My dad's 65 years old. He can run, jump, eat meat, and his hair is black. Only some gray hair, like 90% of his hair is black, and he is just healthy. Eat meat every single meal. Vietnamese eat meat, Thai eat meat, Japanese eat meat, Arabic countries eat meat. Yep, any healthy culture is eating meat. There's no doubt about that. All right, let's see here. My good friend Jeff, who always has something to comment. Thank you, Jeff. You always help the algorithm. Even though you don't have a lot to say, he typically says the same thing. Steaks are better than cakes. And but you know what? I appreciate those comments because they do help the algorithm. I made a comment a few weeks ago or a few days ago in a previous video where I was telling you guys I can't keep up with the comments like I should. And I noticed a precipitous drop in the amount of comments I was getting. I have been getting caught up on those comments, so feel free to comment at will. I'm going to get back to them at some point. Thankfully, my job is a little slow sometimes, and it gives me time to get caught up on those comments while I'm waiting for somebody to call and place an order. Let's see. Vicky the Carnivore Kosher is here. Hello from North Carolina. Hello from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. Is that the name of a city? King of Prussia? The Netherlands is here. Carnivore Pete. Penny Obernier from Ohio. Welcome, Penny. Cabby from Northeast Florida. Aaron liked the disclaimer. Addicted to Antlers says, I love that old intro. Kind of miss it, actually. I think I overdid it. It's like a 30-second intro. And I thought with the amount of videos I was putting out, I'd put out something that was a little shorter to make it quick to jump into the video so there wasn't more people skipping parts of the video. Because the more you skip through, the shorter the view time is. And the view time makes a difference in the algorithm. So I'll mix it back in occasionally, though, because I know some of you really do like that intro, and I've been trying to mix it in with my 30-second intro, with my 6-second intro, and then I even got a 2-second intro because I try to keep it piffy. That's why I usually edit out all the pauses when I do my recordings, because it flows so well. And, you can even put your speed up on your playback on YouTube. You can set it up to like 1.25% playback speed or even 1.5%, although I probably talk too fast for that, the way I edit these things down. But you can listen to these things even faster that way if you do a lot of type of walk-in listening to what I'm talking about. But I don't think that hurts the playback time because you're still watching the whole video. But I'm not sure. If anybody does know about that, that's something I don't have a whole lot of time to do. I don't spend a lot of time researching how to make YouTube better. I probably should if I'm trying to count on this for more of a job than it is just a hobby, because the jobs that I'm able to get, ever since I left the retirement home industry, it has been a struggle because that's something that I've got experience in, and I'm just not interested in going to work in an industry where I know they're going to tell me to do things that are unhealthy for elderly people. And unless I could find a place I could work at where maybe like a carnivore doctor is involved in helping out, and I haven't found anything like that local, it's been tough as far as finding a regular gig that I can do things other than doing this. And I love doing this. I love being able to speak and inspire and encourage people and get people healthy. So I put a lot of effort into this, but I have a hard time putting a lot of effort into what YouTube wants me to do or what makes YouTube better. I just like to bring authenticity and tell the truth about my experience. And as I study and learn things, I want to share those things with you guys because I know what a struggle it is in this world to start on a carnivore way of eating, because you're going to take flack from your friends, you're going to take flack from your family, you're going to take flack from your doctor, you're going to have all this pushback. And it's so important for not only me to be here to encourage you and tell you what I've experienced and how it continues to be a healthy way of eating, but also all the other folks out there that are doing such a great job right now, like Homestead How, Carrie over at Homestead How, and of course the carnivore docs out there, Dr. Barry, Dr. Baker, Dr. Saladino. Even though he gets a little flack for the fruit and honey thing, he's still the carnivore doctor, you know, from way back when. And some of the stuff he talks about in his book, I think, is still very worth listening to. And for some people, maybe fruit and honey is a thing. For me, it's absolutely not. I can't go back to sugar. When I add sugar back to my life, it's just like any of those other drugs. I want too much of it. So I do fine without it. So I just stay away from it. And I would encourage anybody else who has a problem regulating those things to stay away from them. I was watching something with Dr. Barry earlier where he even mentioned honey is probably fine in very small amounts, very rarely. But when it comes to something sweet to taste, I mean, I'd be like Winnie the Pooh in there, just digging the honey out and eating all of it. So I got to stay away from it. It doesn't help me at all. Let's see what else we got here. Kel says hello. Carnivore Pete is a Dutch carnivore. We talked about, we said from the Netherlands earlier. Isn't Dutch is from the Netherlands, right? Let's see. Greetings from Eastern North Carolina. Hello from Michigan. That's where Katie's from. Got a lot of Michiganders living around here in Florida, too. Fresno, California in the house. Albany, New York. Welcome, Cordelia. Toledo, Ohio. I am just so amazed at the reach that this channel gets on this channel, on YouTube. South Wales, United Kingdom. I'm glad you guys can still hear me out there with all the stuff going on where they're trying to censor so much. Question, how can carnivore help with asthma symptoms? Well, asthma, just like most any other illness, has probably some relation with inflammation in the body. Eating carnivore is going to reduce inflammation. Inflammation is at the root of most everything. Now, I don't know specifically how asthma is related to it, but I can tell you this. I was on allergy medicine for a long time before this. I was taking levocetirizine, which was a prescription up until recently, and that my doctor referred to it as cetirizine on steroids. Now, cetirizine, I think, is the same as, it's not Claritin, and it's not Allegra. It was the other one. There's another name brand that it was like, but he said it was that on steroids. So it was the really strong version of cetirizine. And I used to have to take one of those every day just to stay within my skin. Now, even though I'm allergic to cats, we have a cat that's been living in the house with us, and she's had a couple of litters of kittens that we've rehomed, thankfully. And I've had some mild responses to that, but I used to have a problem with cats to the point where if I was in a house where they had a cat, I used to go to my brother's house, my half-brother Charles, and we used to play board games for hours and hours all through the night. And if I stayed there for more than 3 or 4 hours when he had cats, I used to go buy Primatine Mist from the store while I was in the middle of playing a game with him because I couldn't breathe. My lungs were just tightening up to the point that I couldn't breathe. And now we live with a cat, and I do get occasional itchiness in my eyes. And if she scratches me, that'll get real itchy. But other than that, I can breathe. I can live with her, and I don't have all kind of stopped up nose. Now, I know allergies and asthma aren't exactly the same thing, but I don't think that a lot of people relate inflammation to allergies either. And I think inflammation plays a huge role regardless of the illness. And if you can reduce that inflammation, you're going to reduce a lot of problems. Let's see what else we got here. Peace from Soterios. Carambellis. Peace to you too, sir. Let's see, Christopher from Georgia, my old home state for a little while. I'm originally from Florida, but I lived in Georgia probably longer than I lived in Florida overall. I actually just discovered you about 2 hours ago from watching your interview with 5 Minute Body and saw you were here about to go live. Welcome, Christopher. I'm glad you're here. Let's see, ever geek out on my website, Meatrition? Well, I'm not familiar with it, but I'll let people know about it. So check it out. Check out Travis's site, Meatrition. If it's got some good nutritional information for meat, probably be helpful. Hello from Calgary, Canada. Let's see. Chrono77 asks about xylitol gum for dental health. Look, I can tell you this. My dental health, since I've been on an all-meat diet, if I stay away from sugar, I barely even have to brush my teeth. The only time I really have to brush my teeth is if I eat any dairy or eat any sugar or eat anything that's not meat. When I'm only eating meat, my teeth are always clean. If I drink coffee, I'm going to get stains. If I were vaping still, I can get stains. But aside from that, my teeth are perfect when I only eat meat. Xylitol doesn't sound like something I would need or want in my body. I'm not sure what it's for, but all I can tell you is if you can stick to meat only, your teeth are going to be fantastic. And your gums are going to be stronger. Your jaw is going to be stronger. You're probably going to get a more filled out jawline because you're going to work on muscles you haven't worked on before. You know, the one of the problems a lot of people here probably are familiar with this, but for those who might not be familiar with it, do you think that people were cutting out their wisdom teeth thousands of years ago because they couldn't fit all their teeth in their mouth? I highly doubt it. I mean, even if you go back 50, 60 years, the dentistry practices were archaic compared to what they are now. So getting those things out was a heck of a job even as late as the mid-20th century. So imagine what it was like in the 1400s and the 1300s. If everybody was having to have their wisdom teeth extracted, then there would be a huge problem. And I'm sure some people had that problem because the poorer people were, the less meat they had to eat. But the more people ate meat, the stronger their jaws were. And when you look at any of these cultures where people eat a lot of meat on a regular basis, you don't see major teeth and health problems of any kind. You see a lot of healthy people in general. So personally, I would avoid something with a name like xylitol. But I don't know anything about it specifically. It just doesn't sound like something I would want to have on my list. Let's see. Travis Statham says, ha. Ha, Travis. Let's see. P. Raw Wilma and Mike says, hi to the family. So I guess that's for everybody here. Elite likes the disclaimer. What else we got? Dukes and Daughters. You won't regret subbing. Christopher, Dante is inspiring. Thank you so much for that, Dukes and Daughters. I appreciate that. You know, you guys that do subscribe, the only thing I encourage people is if you're watching the videos, please subscribe. If you're not watching the videos, I don't really encourage subscription because I think the algorithm actually looks at whether or not you watch the channels you're subscribed to. I'm not asking everybody to go unsubscribe, but I'm asking people, if you do subscribe, watch the videos. Even if you just let them play for a little while, it helps. If you're not able to donate as a patron or to donate through super thanks or super chats or any of the other forms that you're able to support something like what we're doing here, and you know, YouTube, what is that, AdSense? It doesn't come close to covering the cost of what it takes to do something like this. But when you're doing things that you can do that don't cost money, like subscribing and then watching and liking videos and commenting, it certainly helps the channel. So I appreciate that. I've never been one to beg for those things. I always hated watching YouTube channels and hearing the same thing over and over about like and subscribe and all those things. But I also know that when I'm watching YouTube, a lot of times when I hear that, I'm reminded, oh yeah, I like this guy. I want to go ahead and like the video. So I'm still wimbly about whether or not I want to actually mention that all the time. So I've kind of made it not a big thing. But every once in a while, I like to bring it up to let you guys know it does help. It does make a difference. especially when you can't help financially. If you want to support what we're doing here, if you want to encourage more people to try a carnivore way of eating, if you want to see more people getting healthy and happy and living in a society where people aren't all jacked up on these medicines and drugs and bad foods that are making them insane and angry and in pain, then do what you can to support the carnivore channels out there. Liking, subscribing, all of that stuff, becoming a patron. And I will say that I've started doing something that I haven't done with my Patreon. Patreon has always been something I looked at as, if you want to help support what I'm doing, I'm asking you to be a patron. You can join at a $1 level, at a $5 level. They go all the way up to a $100 level, which somebody asked for and then did for a little while, but not a whole lot of people have jumped on the board with that one. And I don't expect them to. I'm happy if somebody starts in at $1, because those little things are putting your money where your mouth is and saying, I do want to support what you're doing. I do want to help other people get healthy. But I've added to what I've been doing. It's not just me asking you to contribute so that I can keep doing all the free stuff. I'm still doing all the free stuff, but what I did for the first time recently is I released a video that was about 10 days before it's going to debut that gives some information about a product that I represent that saves a little bit of money. So I'm going to try to incorporate more stuff for that for my patrons, because they're putting their money where their mouth is. I want to make sure that they're going to get the information a little bit early. I'm not allowed to share some of that information publicly, but when it comes to a paid group, I think that I'm able to get that by. Hopefully I won't find out from the company I'm talking about that they didn't like what I did. But ultimately, I think it's a good thing to show the people who support you that you want to help support them. So I'm going to try to come up with more stuff for the patrons that will help to let you know how much I appreciate you, aside from just letting you know I do truly appreciate you. Because when that Patreon account, whatever builds up each month, ultimately that's going to wind up helping me pay my taxes probably at the end of the year. Because a lot of this income that I get from this and on the job, I'm not paying any taxes, so I got to wind up paying. As a matter of fact, my accountant said they're going to have my stuff together Monday, and I'll find out what kind of damage I got for last year. But I don't want to get too much into finances. I just want to let you guys know how much I appreciate all the support you do give. Okay, P-Raw Wilma Mike says, first time here on Dante's channel, and I, of course, subbed. Let's see. I wish the Bible recommended a carnivore diet. What do you think all that sheep herding was about? What do you think all those goats were for? You know, they weren't just raising them for sacrifice only. They had to keep the unblemished ones for sacrifice. They were eating those animals. So I think the Bible does recommend meat. Some of the things where you read about, like Daniel choosing to be a vegetarian when he was in Babylon, that had nothing to do with the fact that it was meat, is that it was meat sacrificed to altars. So he was eating vegetables because it wasn't supposed to be the healthier way to go. And even the guard who was with him was like, man, if I give you vegetables, I'm going to be in trouble because you're going to be weak and sick and you're going to be all in bad shape in a very short period of time. And then my boss is going to kill me because I didn't give you the right food. And Daniel assured him that it wasn't going to be a problem because he was trusting in the Lord. So that whole vegetarian bit there that they went through was more of showing their faith, not about saying that vegetables were good for you. Now, there is something to say about vegetables. There's plenty of vegetables mentioned in the Bible. And my view on it is there's another thing mentioned in the Bible called pharmakia, where you start doing things that are translated as the word sorcery, where you start trying to use chemicals and concoctions to make things a certain way. Well, most of our vegetables have been so, for lack of a better word, bastardized by all of the tinkering we've been doing, whether it's crossbreeding to make things more powerful or more potent at resisting pests, using genetic modification to do resistance like that. And then we spray them with all kind of things. We use sprays to let fruits ripen while they're in transit to us. They're not still connected to the tree where they're actually getting ripe. The chemicals they're using are actually making them ripen but they're using a false way of doing it, or at least making them look like they're ripe. I don't think they're actually ripe when they're done that way. They just look like they're ripe, which makes you buy the product. And that's what their goal is. So many things have been done to fruits and vegetables. If you look up some information about what vegetables and fruits used to look like, you'll see that a banana wouldn't look like something you'd just pick up and start eating, because it was full of all these black seeds. They were much smaller. They weren't as white as they are now. All of these things that we eat today have been modified, changed, transformed into something that's basically Frankenstein food, which is the same thing you see when you go buying a box of cereal on the shelf. All of that stuff, it's Frankenstein food. You read the ingredients, you got a list of things you can't even pronounce, and you don't even think about it. You figure, oh, well, we were eating this when I was a kid, so I'm going to feed it to my kids. You got to have a different view of all that stuff. So when it comes to what the Bible says about eating, I do think vegetables would be good if you could get a hold of some natural raised vegetables. They could be good for somebody that's in lower income, especially because they were basically poor man's food. And when you think about how the Bible talked about how people would trade animals or give a flock of animals when they would give their daughter in marriage, that was a sign of wealth. That was something to get them started in life. I mean, that was a major investment. So meat has always been something that you would eat if you were doing well, but if you were doing poorly, you were probably eating potatoes or trying to make something that you could get by with. But the stuff we're eating now isn't that natural stuff from before. So that's why I have to keep away from it, because it still affects me negatively. And I think a lot of the negative stuff that I had is not only those bad vegetables that we've been eating for the past 40 years or so, but also all the junk that was in the food, all the processed food. I used to eat out at fast food restaurants, and I thought I was doing good because I'd order it without the bun or something like that. But ultimately, there are so many other things, ingredients that they use, or they spray it on the grill, that you're still getting all these chemicals and all this junk in your body that shuts down your digestion and fills you up with inflammation and causes all kind of problems. So I think the Bible is very much about eating meat. And when it comes to vegetables, we just have a whole different situation in the 21st century than they did in, say, the first or second century when the New Testament was written, or in the earlier centuries when the Old Testament was written. So we've had a lot of things change. The meat isn't probably as good as it used to be either, but one of the things that's beautiful about ruminant animals, and is one of the reasons I do a lion diet, is because that multi-chambered stomach of a ruminant animal just gets rid of all that garbage. They could literally eat the food that we don't eat. You could put cereal in their slop, and their stomachs can weed all those toxins and garbage out of there and still give you clean meat. Now, I prefer to have regeneratively raised animals that are grass-fed and grass-finished, because it makes for them to be healthier overall. And I think when you eat an animal that's healthier, it's healthier for you. But to be honest, I did probably the first 7 or 8 months strictly on store-bought meat, and I got most of my benefits in that first 7 or 8 months, and I've just continued them on since then. And even though I do prefer to eat grass-fed, grass-finished as much as I can now, I don't think there's anything wrong with eating the store-bought meat. Now, there is the argument that they're adding certain things to the meats, that they're trying to get you vaxxed through eating meats, that they're trying to get medicine into you through eating meats. I don't know if they're starting to do that yet, and that's really above my pay grade, so I don't know where to go with that, but I would say that I would certainly resist it as much as possible. If you have any way to vote against it, or you can encourage local farmers to say they're not going to do these things, that they're not going to put this junk in their animals, because I know from working with local ranchers in this area that you can raise animals without giving them constant vaccinations, without giving them antibiotics. They don't need antibiotics if they're eating tall grass and they're not getting worms because they're chewing the grass all the way down to the ground. You don't need to give them something to make them get healthy again because they're eating glyphosate from you spraying, that weed killer, Roundup, all over everything. He doesn't use Roundup on any of his grass, and the grass is wonderful and it's perfect for the animals. So it's always better if we can do it that way. And I think the world would be a better place if a lot more ranchers were doing it that way. It's easy to try to go for the fast, cheap buck, but that's what's gotten us where we are, and we definitely need to rethink that process. I don't know. I get so sidetracked, I don't even know what question I was answering. Let's see here. Chrono77 says, doctors way back in time spent time with their patients and got to know them. That's absolutely true. And there are some doctors that'll do that today. I talked about one that's right here locally in Ocala, Florida, Dr. John Littell. He seems to be exactly that kind. As a matter of fact, when we made our appointments, I was going to have me and my wife go to see him. They made our appointments together because we were a husband and wife. He said, we might as well talk at the same time. Since I'm going to be treating the family, you might as well be in on the same conversation. I'd never had that happen before. So that was exciting to know that if there's a doctor right here in Florida like that, and I know there's other doctors out there like that. Dr. Barry posted a video where he talked about how you can find a doctor in your area too. And he had like a whole list of websites on there. If I can find that and I remember to do it, I'll go back and add that link to this video. So if you're not watching this live, I'll be able to add that later. But if you search Dr. Ken Berry and doctors in your area or carnivore doctors, you might be able to find that video where he has all those links that help you find a local doctor that'll work with you. Hopefully there'll be one close enough by to not be too far of a drive. Why would carnivore only get popular now then? Well, when people start to catch on that we've been lied to about things and start seeing benefits that we weren't seeing. I mean, Dr. Atkins probably opened Pandora's box when he wrote his book back in the 1960s or 70s, whenever it was, the Atkins Diet Revolution, which was a large amount of meat and a little bit of vegetables, that opened people's eyes that low carb was beneficial. But even when I did Atkins back in the 2000s, I thought, well, there's not enough in meat for you to stay healthy. It was only later, only when I finally heard about carnivore, when I was trying to solve my gut problems and my health problems, and I heard about Jordan Peterson and Mikhaila Peterson being able to solve so many health problems in their lives with a carnivore way of eating, and my doctors weren't giving me any answers. I thought, that's all I got left. I'm going to give it a shot. I didn't know you could do this only, but I'm going to see what it's like. And it has been even better than Atkins was for me. And I lost 88 pounds on Atkins, but I didn't feel as healthy as I do now. And I'm much older. I did Atkins back in 2006, 2007. And here I am about to turn 51 years old. And on carnivore, I'm stronger than I was when I was 17 years old. I still got some damage that I've done in my body over the past 48 years. I've got damage in both of my shoulders and my tendons are kind of messed up. I got carpal tunnel syndrome in both arms. I got golfer's elbow and tennis elbow. So, I mean, I got a lot of aches and pains from years of doing damage to myself, but they don't slow me down like they used to. They don't keep me from getting out and getting exercise. And once I realized that carnivore was the answer, ultimately, I said, well, I'm going to scream it from the rooftops. And then I found out about the carnivore community out there. And the sun's starting to go down. I need to turn the light on so it won't get dark in here on you guys. So once I saw there was a carnivore community out here, there was a whole group of people. When I made that first video, I didn't expect it to get hundreds of thousands of views in just a few days, but it did. And then I thought, well, what in the world have I fallen into here? I thought I was just going to help some of my fellow video gamers on YouTube get, find something that'll help them lose a few pounds. I didn't know I'd found the button that everybody's looking to have pushed, because there's so many people out there now that have been trying for 40 years to get healthy. They've been following everything that nutritionists have said, and they've been following what the cereal boxes said, that this was heart healthy and this was good for you and you should eat wheat and you should eat all these things. And nothing has gotten better. They've gained weight. They've gotten sicker. And then they find out that people are trying carnivore and it's changing everything. That's why it's becoming popular now. Between the suppression of information done by big food and big pharma and government combined, which I don't even want to get into it, but if you're doing any research out there, if you're paying attention, there's not a whole lot of people that are vying for power that actually give a darn about you. They do give a darn about your vote or your money, but they don't give a darn about you. So a lot of misleading information, a lot of lies, a lot of things that have been suppressed, a lot of willful ignorance on the part of people, and a lot of people that meant to do well but weren't doing well and recommending things, whether it was trying a vegan diet or whatever. Now, I've met some vegans. They're nice people. They found health benefits from it. I think just like they tell the carnivores a lot of times, you just got healthy because you cut out the ultra-processed foods. I agree with that. I believe both of us are benefiting from cutting out ultra-processed foods. But whether you're a carnivore or a vegan, there's a lot of infiltration from food companies trying to push UPF right back in to your carnivore diet or your vegan diet. So if you stay away from those, you'll probably be healthier. The one thing I got to say, though, I notice about vegans is that the longer they stay vegan, the weaker they look, the weaker they are, the more pasty they look. And sometimes they do things that don't indicate that they're firing on all cylinders upstairs. I mean, you don't see people going into a supermarket pouring out milk or rather throwing vegetables on the floor to say that carnivore diet is the way to go. But you see people going into supermarkets, pouring out the milk and throwing the cheese on the ground and opening up the meat and throwing it out and doing things that are basically criminal activity on a vegan diet. But you don't see that on a carnivore diet. I can't help but think that there's something not healthy for your mind if that's the overall result. So again, if you're a vegan and you're watching this and you're not getting to that point, God bless you. I'm thankful. I'm thankful you found something that's helped you be healthy. But there's a lot of vegans that have gone to a carnivore way of eating who have found out that this does so much more for them. They're stronger. They're able to put on muscle better. Their mind is clearer. Their life is better. So it might be worth looking at. If you've been looking at that and you've been willing to give it a try, give carnivore for a try. Maybe for 30 days, maybe for 60 days. If you've got animal killing problems that cause you to go that route, you need to also take a look at what it takes to farm an acre of land, and then think about how many thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of land are needed to feed millions of people, and then realize how many small rodents and birds and bugs and everything else that's living that has to be killed because they spray it with all kind of pesticides and they use pesticides to make the vegetables grow and all these other things. You're not doing anything to save the animals by going vegan. So take a closer look at it and then just decide, do you want to eat something that's actually going to be better for you, or do you want to eat something that's just going to make you feel like it's better for you? That's my thought on it. Let's see. Any other female lion dieters out there? I'm 64 and loving it. Anna Rees, y'all jump in and let Anna know if you're out there and you're a female lion dieter. Let's see what else we got here. Yep, Gail was basically saying what I was saying. Brenda Raymond was talking about TV dinners. We heated them up in the oven. I remember now. It's been a long time. And when I was a kid, I didn't do the cooking. It wasn't because it was fast. It's because they were frozen. Yeah, now when things are so fast, that's probably the big reason why we eat so much UPF, ultra-processed food, is that we're all busy. We all got to work. I mean, husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, the kids got to work. I mean, I was looking at adding my 16-year-old son to my insurance, which is already ridiculous on my automobile insurance, and it's going to double it just to add him on there, even though he's a straight A student and he's very careful. I mean, he doesn't, when we go riding, I'm like, get up to the speed limit. You're going to upset the cars behind you if you don't go at least the speed limit. But you know, everything's expensive and everything's hard. So everybody's rushing to do something. So yeah, if you want to get out the door and have some breakfast, you can stick a couple of Pop-Tarts in the microwave for 10 seconds and write an IOU to your body, or you can take the time to make some bacon and eggs and then have some cleanup to do, but you're not going to be unhealthy and sick and in pain later. So it's hard to make that sacrifice when you're constantly having to keep up with the rat race, which is another thing that's been pushed on us. Okay, let's see. John Giogahin. I'm not sure how to say your name. Dante, thinking about going to the Dr. John Littell event at the World Equestrian Center on November 11th. Do you know if there are still tickets available? I don't know if there are still tickets available, but if you look up Dr. John Littell, you'll find his website, or you can look up my video that talks about a carnivore doctor or a carnivore friendly doctor. And it's Littell, Littell, and you'll find his website. And when you go there, the first thing that pops up is information about that event that's going to be in Ocala on November 11th. And I think the tickets were $85 for a regular viewing, and it's a 6-hour thing. So, I mean, you're going to get your money's worth. So that's good. And Dr. Baker is going to be there. So there's another reason to go if you want to be able to get anything with that. I'm not, only affiliation I have with Dr. John Littell is that he is our new family doctor. So I don't make anything off of that. It's just recommending because I want people to know information. And if you live in the Florida area, or if you're in the Central Florida area and you'd like to get some information, because they're going to be talking about a number of things, not just food in general. Like, that's the reason Dr. Baker is going to be there, but they're going to be talking about things like COVID and women's health and a number of other issues that are worth listening to. He actually wrote a book that deals with lies you've been told dealing with women's health. My wife dove into it, and then my mother-in-law came and took it from her because she's like, what? This is telling me all the things the opposite of what the doctors are saying. So now she's into it. And again, I don't make anything on that book, but you can get it on his website. And if it supports somebody who's really trying to give health care to people, I think a doctor like that should be rewarded for doing the things that he's doing, because he's going against the grain. And I know he's even dealing with some battles where they want to take away his license. They want to shut him up. So if you can help support Dr. John Littell, then do anything you can to do that. And if you read his book, it might be beneficial for you, especially you ladies, because both my wife and my mother-in-law just, they want to devour that book already. There are lots of things we've been doing for hundreds of years that are only popular now because of the internet. It says in the Bible, knowledge will increase. Well, that's true. Let's see. Give me some questions. Okay, here's one. Carnivore Pete asks, I haven't read it yet. Dante, are you still supplementing iodine? Yes. Also, do you have any opinion about supplementing boron, which seems to be another trace mineral that carnivores sometimes are lacking? I've heard good things about boron. I tried it for a while. I didn't feel any better or any less better. There are some possible side effects that I've heard that are not so good. Like if you supplement it too much, it can actually drop your testosterone, so you have to stagger it. I'm not very consistent when it comes to taking supplements anyway. I've been good with iodine. I've been good with vitamin D because I only have to take them in the morning. Boron was recommended to take at night, so I would forget about taking it all the time. And that just got to where I said, you know what? I'm not even going to bother with this. I don't need another $30 a month bill to go with it either. So I figured I'm doing fine without it. I am supplementing DHEA right now just to see if I'd notice any benefit. So far, I don't know if I've noticed anything. And I'm going to have to go back and look at who recommended it to me to even see why I started it. But I do try a few things and try to see if there's any benefit to them. The iodine did make a big difference for me. I noticed very quickly that I started to feel stronger. My face started to fill out more. I didn't have that puffiness under my eyes after a little while. And my hormone regulation, I don't know if it was just the diet, but I do know that I went from having low T problems to having normal testosterone. And one of the things I started between seeing my testosterone already recover just on a carnivore diet, but after I started iodine, it actually went up to a mid to high normal level, as opposed to just being where it was before I started taking testosterone treatment back in 2018, 2017, whatever it was when I started. You know, my doctor had told me that when you quit testosterone injections, your testosterone is just going to go all the way down. And I thought, well, I don't want that to happen. He said, because your body is not going to be able to produce even the low amount that it was producing in the beginning. But when I quit testosterone a year into doing carnivore diet. A few months later, I did go to see my doctor and get my blood work checked, and they checked my testosterone, and my numbers were actually slightly higher than we were when I started taking testosterone. Just slightly higher, like 5 points or something like that. But the fact that they weren't in the toilet was super encouraging to me. And then when I started taking iodine, the next time I went back, they were 50% higher than they were the last time. Now, some people have come back and told me that free testosterone is the only thing that's going to give you the answer. All I know is my testosterone numbers were in the toilet before, and they're not now. Iodine's been a part of my way of eating now for a little over a year, and I still get great blood work. As a matter of fact, that blood work just seems to keep getting better. So, yes, I do supplement iodine. I'm not 100% sure about boron, but there are a few carnivore doctors out there that have a lot more to say about it. I know Dr. Saladino has talked about boron. Dr. Barry has talked about boron. I'd recommend looking into some of their videos on it. I'm not a big supplements guy. I don't want to do supplements. But because of my allergies to fish and some of the other issues that I have with dairy, I find that using vitamin D and iodine help me out a great deal. So sometimes it's nice to have those options. I don't like the cellulose that's in the capsules. I don't like having, coconut oil in the vitamin D, but it's such a minuscule amount. I figured the benefit is stronger than the detraction when it comes to that. But I would recommend anybody buying any supplements of any kind, look at the ingredients. If you can get something that doesn't have anything that's added to it unnecessarily, like my wife was interested in, I forget, some kind of magnesium, thero something or other. And all the magnesium capsules I found out there that she was interested in trying had rice flour in them. I thought, what the heck do you need rice flour for? And I found one that didn't have rice flour, so that's the one I got for her to try. I'd encourage you to make sure you get the ingredients that the things that you don't want to have in your body, not on those ingredients. You got to check everything. You got to check your meat packages when it comes to ingredients, especially when it comes to ground meat, because you'll see artificial or even natural flavors in there. When you see artificial or natural flavors, they're hiding those ingredients, first of all. They're hiding them behind a loophole that the FDA has allowed that says you can call it artificial or natural ingredients if it falls into a couple of these broad categories. But one of the things that it can't fall into is animal products. If it's an animal If it's an animal product, it's supposed to say specifically what it is. So it's most likely something that's either a seed oil or vegetable based. And if you're on lion diet for overall body healing and you're trying to get all that stuff out of your system, you want to avoid natural flavoring and artificial flavoring that they might be putting in your meat. Now, some carnivores might be fine with that stuff because they might just be looking to lose weight. Maybe they don't have the major gut issues I had or some other autoimmune issue that's causing them to have health problems. They're just trying to get their body in shape. Those issues might not be as big a deal for you. But if you're having some of the issues I was, where you felt like you wanted to die and your doctor didn't have any answers and they were looking at you like you were crazy because they couldn't find anything wrong with your stomach and all the pain you were having and why you had brain fog and why you had anxiety and depression, they couldn't explain it, but they wanted to give you some drugs for it. Anyway, even though they didn't know what the answer was, lion diet might be the answer for you because it was definitely the answer for me. I'm reading some more of these, trying to see what I got for any questions. Oh, here's one that's not really a question. Chrono77 says, I just ordered a sous vide machine. I was worried about the plastics, but I can use glass or silicone. Can't wait for the 24-hour, 3-pound chuck steak. Yeah, I tried sous vide. It was just too much of a rigmarole for me. I think if you get set up on it and you've got the right equipment always on the counter and you're willing to go through all that stuff with buying plastic bags or silicone or glass or whatever you're going to use. I guess glass you might not have to buy so much. But I didn't enjoy the overall sous vide experience. And then the meat, I had to find a way to what do you call it? Put a sear on it afterwards. It's like, well, geez, if I'm going to do the what it takes to put a sear on the meat, I might as well just cook it the way it puts a sear on the meat. And that's one of the things I like about the Dreo Chef Maker is it has a sous vide flavor setting that really helps the steak retain moisture more. And it has a browning feature at the end where it really makes the outside crispy. I found that to be excellent. And then I don't have to worry about all the rigmarole. I mean, I do like to find things that save time. And that's one of the things I like about that particular product. So if you're trying to make the carnivore diet work and you're used to that zap frying a Pop-Tart in the morning and you need to find a way to make things fit in a little better, even though the sous vide setting on the Dreo takes anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, there is a standard setting that can properly cook a steak into a delicious fashion for you that only takes 15 to 20 minutes. Now, that's if you're eating steak for breakfast. Eggs and bacon don't take very long to cook in the morning. If you're not doing lion diet, my wife and kids love eggs and bacon, and I'll make those for them all day long. I found that that's about the only way I can get them to get off of the ultra processed garbage is I got to be the one that makes it so that it's there and then it's easy for them. But I'm trying to help my addict family get unaddicted to all the same junk that I got unaddicted from. Let's see. I just came here from Walmart. It hurts my heart to see all those unhealthy people on morbidity. One morbidly obese young woman in a wheelchair cart with a tiny baby attached to her. It breaks my heart too. And it's like, what am I going to say to them? It's not like I can walk up and say, hey, do you want a solution for that problem? Because the Lord knows what kind of can of worms you're opening with that. But by being here and sharing this information on YouTube, hopefully winding up in somebody's recommended feed, might be able to see that there is an answer out there. So I'm going to keep pressing it here and try to encourage more people to give it a try. Let's see here. Question. Dante, thinking about going... Oh, wait, you already asked that one. Did I go backwards? I didn't mean to go backwards. Yeah. Erin tells me she's glad to hear I struggle with these things because she struggles with coffee. Yeah, I'm human. And I've always had that desire for those different addicting things. As a matter of fact, I was offered hard drugs and I said, you know what? I better not try that because I know me and I ain't got time for a habit like that. That's too expensive. But all of them ultimately are too expensive. I mean, look what a nicotine addiction costs. $6-7 a pack for cigarettes. And then these vape devices you buy, you can't even get zero vape anymore when you go to these vape stores. I found out because I went with my wife a couple of times and you used to be able to buy zero nicotine. Some places you probably still can if they make their own juice. And I encourage you to use zero nic to help you get off of vape. But I think that's one of the reasons you're not going to see them there. But one of those little vape pens that last her 2 or 3 days, you're talking $20 a pop, and that's for the cheapest ones you can buy. And then all that waste, plastic and electronic materials, that just goes in the trash. So, I mean, that's not good for the world, is to be making all this extra garbage for nothing. And it's an expensive habit, and who's got time for expensive habits these days? Yeah, I like to get off of those things because I can't afford to deal with all that stuff. Good point, Gail. Good point. What a lot of people tend to forget is that we ask the Lord to bless our food before we eat it too. That makes eating anything okay. I don't know that it makes eating anything okay. I mean, I'm not going to eat, some kind of literal poison and say that I blessed it and that's going to fix the problem, because the Lord did give us a brain to use common sense for. But when it comes down to it, you've got to use that same common sense when it comes to the food that's out there today, because a lot of it is poison. It just doesn't have the poison label on the package. But if you turn around and read the ingredients, you'll find out there are a lot of things in there that are not good for you. And even though individually each one of those things causes only a small amount of problems, when you start to eat those in large quantities or just have one thing that has a large quantity of those things in it, It's doing damage. And you can bless it all you want, but you're not going to get poison to be healthy for you. So avoiding poison, using the common sense that God gave us to be able to make good decisions is an important part of this as well. Let's see. Question, do you fast? If yes, how long and what benefits do you experience? I have fasted. You know, before I started doing this way of eating, I never even considered fasting, even as a Christian, because I don't think it's necessary for your spiritual growth directly, but I have found spiritual benefits from it too, because it helped me to feel free from all of the different things that I felt addicted to. And it was a way for me to get more in touch with my spiritual side by spending time reading scripture instead of eating food. But ultimately, when it comes to the health side, you get into something when you fast called autophagy. Whether you fast doing one meal a day, where you have like a 16 to 24 hour period between eating, that's going to help you if you're trying to get rid of some loose skin. If you're trying to get rid of some trapped fat, that I still struggle for the areas in the love handles for loose skin and some of the fat that just doesn't want to go away no matter what. And I haven't done a fast since last September. I really need to get back to it. But I've just been enjoying eating meat and doing my daily routine. It's still hard for me to want to fast sometimes, but there are definitely benefits. And I would encourage doing it, especially when you've had a difficult time with something, or maybe after you've eaten something that you shouldn't eat, because that was the first time I tried fasting when my stepfather died, and it was such a shock and it was so heavy on my heart. I remember I got one of those old comfort food desires and I ate like a whole tub of ice cream. And the next day I was paying for it, man. Physically, I felt awful. My kidneys felt like a couple of rocks were in there, and it was just, so painful. It made it easy for me to start a fast. And then I did my first 4-day fast either right then or shortly after. But that was the longest I had ever gone. And the longer I went, the easier it got. You do want to make sure you prepare for a fast, though, that you're going to have something to break your fast carefully, because you don't want to eat too much when you go to break your fast. In other words, you don't want to eat a whole ribeye steak after you've been fasting for 5 or 7 days or longer, because you can get sick and even die from basically putting your intestines, your digestive system into rest mode and then expecting it to jump right back into full gear. You got to maybe start off with some bone broth, or maybe a couple of ounces of meat instead of a couple pounds of meat like I'm used to eating on a regular basis. But yeah, there's a lot of benefits to fasting, both physical and mental or spiritual, depending on how you want to look at it, because it did help me to just be free. I used to think that being free was I'm free to put whatever I want in my body. I'm free to have this nicotine. I'm free to have this caffeine. I'm free to have this marijuana. I'm free to have these cigarettes. Technically, yes, I am free to do those things. But what was more freeing was avoiding them, taking the direction of doing things that are healthy for my body is much more freeing than just exercising my freedom and doing things that are counterproductive for myself. And fasting helps you to really get mentally in touch with that and spiritually in touch with that, I believe. Let's see what else we got here. Are you going to add over food? I'm not sure exactly. Let's see. The milkman says, "Hey Dante, are you going to add over?" I guess that was other foods into your diet when you get better. Enjoy your content. I have tried to add other foods into my diet, and the one that keeps sticking around, even though it doesn't do me a lot of good, it tends to cause me to have some digestive discomfort. And I also tend to not lose weight when I'm doing this, is eating butter. Dairy is in general just been a thumbs down for my body. And I wish I could have it, but I really can't. I've had to cut out cheese. Sometimes eating cheese, even good hard cheeses, not some of that plastic soft garbage that they sell us in the store in slices. And even the really good cheeses like grass-fed goat cheese or something like that. Just I'm not it makes me sick. Sometimes it actually causes, pains, and cheese is going to help back you up some too if you're trying to go to the bathroom normally. Maintaining a good fat to protein ratio will keep you going steady when it comes to that. But you start adding cheese in, you're going to have a lot more hard stools. So I stay away from cheeses. I tried to add some vegetables in, but because of either the damage that was done by the surgery that was done when I had my laparoscopic surgery back in 2002 to have my gallbladder removed, because I was eating low fat way too much and my gallbladder just got all those stones because I wasn't using that bile for anything. The surgery that was done went through my belly button and went through the abdominal wall. And the damage done there, I think, is a part of the problem that I'm experiencing. And then a leaky gut problem that comes from all the ultra processed food and all the stuff that's been done to our vegetables over the years. And eating all of that stuff has just made my gut a nightmare. And when I would eat those vegetables, it would cause physical pain, even spices. I've just gotten to where I don't miss those things, though. I love being healthy. I love feeling good. I used to love all the foods. I mean, I was the kind of guy, when I went to the Philippines, I'm like, whatever it is, I'll try it. There was a guy riding through this very, very poor area of the Philippines, which everywhere over there is pretty poor except for Makati, which is like the American ambassador city within Manila. But everything else, even the what they would call the middle class over there, would be lower than the housing projects over here. And there was a guy riding a bike through there selling balut, which is partially, what's the way to word this? It's duck eggs where the duck is already turning into a duck. It's not just yolk in the middle. There's like little feathers in there and everything. I was willing to try that stuff. I was like one of those guys on the food channel. Any weird thing, anywhere we went, the spicy foods, give me the spiciest thing you got. I'll give it a try. And, I found a lot of, I don't know if it would call it pleasure, especially when it came to eating oysters and stuff like that. It was more of just trying to show people I could eat this. I bet you can't. And, what kind of games am I playing with that? I mean, I'm ultimately putting things in my body that might be harmful. So you got to be careful with that stuff. But I used to get a lot of, I guess, pleasure from eating weird foods and trying a variety of things. And I thought it was good to be cultured. But ultimately, I get so much more pleasure out of feeling good and being able to wear clothes that are normal size, not having to buy extra, extra large shirts anymore. I don't have a desire to have those things anymore. And experimenting hasn't gone too well. So the less I experiment, the better it is for me. I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever add them back. I don't know if my body is ever going to fully recover from the 48 years I did to it before. But I'm happy just eating meat. So why change? Let's see. Trying to find some questions, guys. Give me some questions. Michael even points out something. Hello, Brother D. See you next month on Rena's show. I almost forgot. Yeah, I am planning on doing another thing with Rena. I think what I'm doing with Rena on 5 Minute Body is with her coaching channel. And some people have asked me about what I'm doing with the coaching channel thing. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. I need to get a website together, and this is some areas where I don't have any expertise. I've built websites before, but I built websites that were like for a business that didn't have any purchasing going on. It was just like a newsletter or an article that you could go and read about the business information. So I need some help in that area. And I do all of this on my own. I mean, my wife and kids don't know anything about how to do this stuff, and I don't have any professional help on the outside. I don't have a partner or a friend that says, hey, I'll be the guy that monitors your comments or does any of the stuff when you're trying to do a live stream. It's just me. It's a one-man gang, so I'm doing the best I can. Let's see. Hello from Utah, Joe Reese. Louisiana's in the house. Hi, Kel. Hawaii. Oh, no. Just saying hi. Okay. It's all about health, says Dante, first time joining a live. Hi, everyone. This is my first time having a live other than a couple of carnivore conversations that I did. And one of them was with the owner of KetoCon, and the other one was with an old friend of mine who decided to come on the channel and talk about how he had lost a bunch of weight because I felt comfortable doing it with somebody that I knew. And even that was a little sketchy. I tell you, you never know what you get when you go live with somebody. Hello from Ohio, day 70 on Carnivore. Good job, May. I hope everything's working out good for you. I love hearing about the stories. When you guys have been doing Carnivore for a short period of time or a long period of time, please share your stories in the comments. And if you really want to talk about it, if you'd like to be in a Carnivore conversation with me, send me an email with your story. Maybe some pictures before and after. Maybe a screenshot of your blood work changes. Something that I can share with people that will continue to show other people out there how this diet has benefited even more. It's not just me. It's all the people that I've interviewed, and it's all the people that Rena's interviewed and Dr. Ken Berry's interviewed. There are thousands of people getting benefits from this, and the more people come forward and share this information, the more they're going to have a hard time saying that this is just anecdotal evidence. The more the people who want to censor and shut everybody up that don't say what they agree with are going to have to say, well, I don't know if they're ever going to see logic or reason, but if they're being intellectually honest, they'll have to look at it and say, yep, people are getting healthier. Maybe it's worth taking a look at. And if it is something that's going to make one person out of 100 wake up from the dream of whatever ideological nonsense has led them to believe whatever it is they believe at the moment about eating meat, then it's worth it. It's worth it for us to get more of that information out there. So please share your stories with me so I can help more people be able to get healthy. And hey, if you've been wanting to share your story, if you've been wanting to try to put that information out there, maybe you have a hard time when you share this information with your friends and family, you're definitely welcome to do it here, especially if you've had great results. And even if you've had difficult results, I'd like to hear what your comments were. I'd like to be able to talk to you about what you actually did. One of the things that I've found with a lot of people who comment and say that I tried Carnivore and it didn't work is, especially when I know them, I find out they didn't really stick with it. They didn't really give it a shot. They didn't really do it. They were partially doing it. And there are some things that I've learned when it comes to, if you're eating a lot of fat, eating sugar is a horrible combination. And it's going to cause you to have problems. I can't even think of what they are right this moment because I got so many things on my mind and so many questions I want to answer that I was prepared for. But when you're not sticking with it, if you're just faking it, if you're just phoning it in, you're probably lying to yourself about what you're doing. I mean, it's common. We all do it. I do it. I lie to myself. I use self-deception on a regular basis to get what I want, or to not have to do things that I think are hard. But when we can get past that, when we can actually put in the work, when we can actually give something a real try, and we're intellectually honest with ourselves and say, I'm going to stick with it and see what the difference is. I haven't heard many people that actually stuck with it, or any people for that matter, that have actually stuck with it that had major problems. Probably the only problem I've heard people complain of is sometimes they feel constipated. And even Katie had an issue with this for a little while. I said, honey, you don't eat as much fat as I do. You cut the fat off a lot of times. She's like, yeah, but it's got tough gristle in there sometimes, or it's got some whatever that she does not used to chewing. I said, chew it. It's worth the time. I know you're tired of chewing because you're not used to chewing something that's hard to chew like meat is compared to eating a soft bowl of cereal. But if you can eat those things, if you can eat the whole animal, if you can get the fat that you need, you're not going to have these problems in the bathroom. I've been doing this for 3 years. The only times I've ever had hard stool is when I didn't get enough fat in my diet. Eating slow-cooked meats can cause a real problem with this because a lot of the meats that you slow cook don't have a lot of fat. I'll usually take some suet and add it to my slow cooked meats so that I'll not only get the suet added into the liquid that's in there that permeates all of that meat when I eat it and separate it all out and get it nice and thin. And I'll eat that with, wet with fat, but then I'll actually eat the fat that goes with it. And I used to be one of those people, I cut the fat off of everything. I was trying to avoid fat. I didn't like the texture of fat. I had convinced myself that salt was bad for me, so I was avoiding salt. I thought I didn't like the taste of salt, but it was one of those things where I was lying to myself because I'd been told salt was bad for me. So I told myself I don't like the taste of salt. I crave salt now. I love eating the fat. Heck, eating a piece of fat reminds me of what I enjoyed when I would eat a scallop or something like that. And I tend to avoid those too because they're not ruminants and I'm trying to get the full healing I can get from this. But for those of you who don't have issues with scallops and other meats, I think an all meat diet is going to do most people wonders for their health. So I always like to caveat that because I'm on Lion Diet. I don't want to denigrate the carnivore diet. But if you're not seeing the benefits you've been looking for doing a carnivore diet, it might be because your body has gone through what my body has gone through or had some other issues that are either related to autoimmune issues or surgeries or whatever. And eating those ruminants is going to give you a chance to really get all the toxins out and be able to get your body healthy for the first time, maybe since you were very young. Hi, y'all. Rodney in Florida says, hi, y'all. Less junk, more health says, hi, y'all. Hi from Alaska. I don't know that. I've had one person from Alaska. Yeah, I think he's the Alaskan Prepper channel or something like that. I don't watch as much YouTube as a lot of the people that watch the channel. So a lot of times I pick up some of these people's names, but just don't have time to watch all that stuff all the time. I mean, I most of what I share with you guys is experience, but I try to research some things so I make sure that I have more perspectives than just my own. Because I find when I only give my perspective, a lot of times it leaves some people out. So I'm trying to include more people by learning more information as much as I can. But sometimes I don't have time to watch everything that everybody's putting out there. There's so many carnivore channels out there. But I do try to find as much information as I can to help you guys have more perspectives on this way of eating. It's all about health says, you are so inspirational. Love your walk and talks. Cannot watch every day, but when I do, it always inspires me. If I didn't drink club soda, I wouldn't get gas. I wouldn't have those things. But that's probably the only drawback to drinking club soda is that gas has got to go somewhere. Let's see. Thank you, by the way. Is all about your health for letting me know that. Unfortunately, the walk and talks don't get as much attention as some of the more informational videos. I try to still bring them in as much as I can, but with limited time, I have to focus on what's gonna hit more people's attention spots. But I still plan to do those, and I'm gonna try to make sure I have some good information to bring when I do those walk and talks as well, not just inspiration to get out and move. But I got, well, not just this shirt, but I have the shirts on my merchandise channel, or what do you call it, merchandise website, my merch site, merch shop, that has the Screw It, Get Up and Do It shirts. And that's something that I picked up while I was out walking, because it just, same thing with the diet. It just comes down to, you got to get up and do what you got to do. You've got to every morning decide that you're not going to let today get away from you. You're not going to end today worse than you were yesterday. Sometimes you're going to have to take a break like I did this week. You're going to have to get some rest. Rest is just as important as working and doing all the other things we do. But when it comes to eating the right foods and getting that exercise, just start off on the right foot. See if you can get that exercise in early if possible, especially if you go walking. It's great for you because you get out, you get that early morning sunlight. That early morning sunlight helps wake up your brain, helps get your neurons going. It'll do a whole lot more for you than coffee will, especially if you're drinking water before you have coffee or no coffee at all. So starting off the day right is a big part of every day for me. And now it's such a blessing to be able to help my family start off right. I've gotten to where I'm making bacon and eggs almost every morning. And now my 16-year-old son, the past 3 days in a row, he's gotten up before me or my wife, and he's actually in there making breakfast now. It's exciting to see. Let's see, looking for questions. Yeah, somebody reminded me Zyrtec. Man, I'm way behind on all these comments. Let me see if I can find some questions. Question. Yeah, put Q's in front of it or Q&A or something like that if you need to. That'll help me see it quicker. When you started Carnivore, did you hit any stalls? And what did you do to overcome the stall? Yes, I hit stalls. Everybody's going to hit stalls. Those stalls are not always what you think they are. You're not gaining fat. You're eating more protein. Your body is going to use that protein to make muscle. Muscle weighs more than fat. At some point, you're going to have some imbalances there. Probably the best thing I can tell you to do is don't check your scale more than once a month. If you're checking your scale more than once a month, you're going to very easily get discouraged, because when you look at it weekly, or heaven forbid, if you're looking at it daily, you're going to see those fluctuations, and you don't want to start your day looking at it saying, holy cow, I'm 3 pounds heavier than I was yesterday, and I ate the right way all day long, because it's going to put you in a bad mood. It's going to make you want that comfort food that you're trying to break away from. Don't even look at that scale. If you want to do something that's going to measure what you're actually changing, measure yourself. Measure your dimensions around your waist and around your legs and around your arms. And then once a month, check those. That's where you're going to see the numbers changing. And when you start having to buy new clothes, you're going to know, yeah, this is definitely working, because I'm not wearing XXL anymore, or triple X or quadruple X or whatever X you're using. I mean, the shirts I'm wearing right now from my shop are large. I'm 189 pounds. I'm 6'1", and I'm wearing large shirts. You know, when I go to Walmart these days, I remember it used to be I would go to Walmart when I was, 250 plus. It was hard for me to find clothes that would fit me. Now when I go to Walmart, all the clothes are for people that are 250 plus. You can't even find small clothes anymore. And some of the pants I wear are small. I never thought I would wear anything small, but some of the outfits, like when I buy a tracksuit, the last tracksuit I bought was small in the jacket and in the pants area. So you'll definitely see the changes if you're looking in the right places, but you don't want to let something like the scale disrupt you from eating carnivore. I even talked about the stalls in the very first video that I dealt with, the 125 days on lion diet. And then if you watch, I have a playlist that talks about coming with me on my journey. You'll see a number of times where I felt like, okay, I've been around the same weight for a month now, and I don't know what's going on different, because I let that happen too. All I can tell you is eventually I broke through. As long as I stuck with it, I broke through. And I'm still my high school wrestling weight at age 50. I'm about to be 51 next month. I've had a few people ask, what's my birthday? As a matter of fact, I think it was one of the questions I had on here. Yeah, somebody asked me, what's your birthday in November? I'm the 6th. It will be the best November birthday ever, thanks to Carnivore. Mine's November 7th. So Dukes and Daughters, who is also here, by the way. That's cool. Answer to your question. I might be oxalate dumping because I get huge amounts of tartar on my teeth since starting Carnivore. Do you drink coffee or vape or any of those other things? Because those can make a difference there too. Oxalate dumping may very well be a part of that. I'm not an expert on oxalate dumping. I've watched Dr. Sally, I don't know, Sally K. Norton. She's the one to look into for oxalate dumping. The only thing I had with oxalate dumping is it was hard to nail down as like, oh yeah, you definitely, that's what's going on, because she would show things like little things coming through the skin. I never had any of that, but there are a lot of potential symptoms, and oxalates are definitely real. Oxalic acid is what causes most kidney stones. People will tell you if you start eating meat, you're going to get kidney stones. I have been CT scanned within the first year and a half, or actually after a year and a half of eating carnivore, no signs of any calcium deposits or anything hard in my kidneys. But when you're eating a lot of vegetables that are high in oxalates, you can definitely get kidney stones from those. So I wouldn't be surprised if that has a direct relation with tartar as well. Because I did have some tartar to deal with, especially like on the back of my bottom teeth. And I don't get it all the time, but every once in a while, like when I go to see my dentist, they still clean that area out and it'll feel different when I'm done, but it doesn't show on the front like it used to. It used to come all the way around to the front. Hi from Lutz, Florida. Sorry, I'm being quiet. I'm trying to skip through and see if I can find some. Oh, thank you, May. Letting folks know to share. Appreciate you letting folks know out there. Oh, got a super sticker here. Sorry to make you wait so long, Lori Ann. I didn't know it doesn't pop up anywhere. I got to figure out how to get where I see those immediately. Super sticker $4.99. Thank you for that. Character holding their head in their hands, saying incredible. I'm not sure what it means, but I appreciate it. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, here's one. Fortis et Liber said, I'm having a hard time to stick with only meat. I'm pretty healthy and I'm not overweight. I'm 6'4", 200 pounds. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I do it more to feel better and stronger in general. So, well, of course you're going to have a hard time sticking with it. You're probably a former or current sugar addict. I guess they say you're always an addict once you're an addict. So just, do your AA meeting speech. Hello, I'm Fortis et Liber. I'm hoping that's not your real name. And I'm a sugar addict. It's hard. And you're living in an asylum full of sugar addicts. So yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. That's why we have this community, to try to help people to know that they're not alone. And that's why I have Ferrigno Freedom Facebook group. There are 2 Facebook pages. I had comments about that too. Let me see. Somebody had made a question dealing with Facebook. How do I join your private Facebook page? When I do a search, I can only find one, and I don't think it's the private one. All I had to do was follow, and I think there was, I don't think there was a join option. I have a Facebook page, and I have a Facebook group. The Facebook page is the one where you can follow. The Facebook group is the one where you can join. If I see somebody joining and they're a very recent person on Facebook, they have no picture, they have no information, there's a high likelihood that I'm going to reject them, because I'm trying to make sure we don't get anybody coming in that just wants to be a troll. It doesn't mean I reject everybody, but I will ask that anybody who is in the Facebook group, if you find anybody that's doing trolling type information, please send me a Facebook message, or you can report it. And apparently it shows it directly to me. I've had a couple of people report things and then it shows up. But I keep the group specifically because people have a hard time sharing this, and they don't want to share it with their friends and family and get a whole bunch of guff from people about it when they do it. So that's what the Facebook group is all about, is having a place where you can come and talk to other like-minded people who are struggling, who are having a hard time. Oops. What did I do? I put the birthday one back up there. Let me take those away. People who are having a hard time with carnivore diet, or people who are having great success, or people who are offering recipe ideas or sharing what they made today. Maybe it'll give you an idea of something you can try. And if you're doing lion diet, I would say I encourage you to at least stick with it for 3 to 6 months, doing it very steadily, so that you don't miss out on the opportunity of the healing that comes from only eating ruminant meat. And then if you're going to add things back in, one thing per month, give it a month to see if you're having any negative side effects. Be careful though. You might find you're going to get addicted to something if it has sugar. I tried bringing milk back in like a crazy person for a little while. Didn't even think about the fact that lactose was sugar because I'm just like anybody else out there. I can forget what's what. And I was like, wow, why am I gaining weight? Be careful what you add in. Thank you for sharing that, Adam. Yes, I'm hoping my accountant is finding those things because I'm paying her a lot of money to take, 10 months to get my taxes done. Kronos said good night, y'all. Hello from Alaska. Share that one. Moving seeds. Oh, another super chat here. Mary Enderspy. Appreciate that $10 super chat. Very kind of you. Very kind. Question. How many pounds of meat a day per body weight? I'm 58 years old and 44 days in the carnivore. I don't even think about such things, Bill. Eat when you're hungry. That's the best thing I can tell you. Eat enough meat, as Dr. Barry says, to be comfortably stuffed, and then don't eat again until you're hungry. Sometimes it's hard if you do it too early in the day, because that late in the day is when you get those cravings for things that you want, that comfort food. I usually recommend keeping maybe a little piece of like a filet or some other small cut of meat available that you could warm up if you need to. I like to keep a crock pot going just about all the time, and I found that warmed up hamburger in a microwave is pretty tough to chew down, but if you stick it in the crock pot and let it sit in the fat in there and get warm again that way, it's a great way to have some meat available to eat at night. But you want to have something to eat when you're hungry is the key. And, I've talked about carnivore crisps before. A lot of people complain about how expensive they are. I will say that the process they go through is fairly expensive. They are getting grass-fed and grass-finished meat, and it's something that I like because, one, they've supported this channel since very early, back when I only had 3,000 subscribers. Two, the people there are dedicated to the carnivore community. And three, it's all locally owned ranchers and things that are participating. But carnivore crisps are a great way to have something handy that you don't have to worry about preparing. If you're constantly on the go, they're a great alternative. You can make your own carnivore crisps. Heck, I think even on their website, they talk about how you can make your own things like this. You can get a dehydrator, you can get a meat slicer. But if you haven't got time to do all that, like I don't have time to do all that, that's one of the reasons I stick with carnivore crisps as an option to have for when I need something to eat like that. But eating when you're hungry is going to be the biggest key, not worrying about necessarily how much meat, because your body will send messages to your brain when it says, there's enough nutrients here. We're good. And you'll feel full eating meat anyway. Meat is very satiating. Unlike, all the processed garbage that we eat, it fills you up, but then it's not sending that signal to the brain that there's everything here that we need. So even though you're still full, you're still hungry and you want to keep eating, and you eat until your stomach stretches out. And then you wind up needing to eat more food as you progress because your stomach just keeps getting bigger and bigger. When you're eating meat though, you're going to get full quicker. And as soon as you start to notice you're full and you're not uncomfortably stuffed, you want to go to where you're like, okay, I'm full. If I eat more, it will be uncomfortable. That's when you stop and be ready to eat again just in case. If you can do one meal a day, you're going to get the benefits of going into autophagy and the extra fat loss and the extra skin tightening that comes from that. So that's an option. Perfect, Matthew. Exactly what I was just saying. Totally agree. Kathy McDonald said she cooked a turkey today, was planning it for supper, couldn't stand it, kept thinking I should just cook steak. Seems like I've lost my taste for everything except beef. It's one of the things I've found too. I don't like chicken. I don't like pork anymore. I have eaten bacon. I ate a lot of bacon at one time not too long ago, and it made me sick. I felt like I was hit by a train the next day because I got off of all those things that are in foods that ruminants don't have. And I think that, the damage that's been done to me in my 48 years, I've got to stay away from those things. But I've had people on my carnivore conversations. They eat plenty of bacon. They eat plenty of pork, and they do just fine. Miles and David Moore were in a carnivore conversation, the two ranchers that I had on the show that had the meat right there all along, but they were real heavy. And now between the two of them, they've lost well over 200 pounds, but they're not picky about their meat. They're able to do it because their goal was weight loss. If their goal was some other health issues that like what I had, then Lion Diet is a big part of that. And yes, it is a steak pillow, somebody asked. This thing back here is a steak pillow. This was a gift from a viewer, so I don't remember the name of the viewer right now, but I do want to thank him. I'm sure he's out there still watching. But yes, a carnivore way of eating, whether it's Lion Diet or not, is just going to be dependent on what your particular health needs are. Yep, I feel the same way. Chicken tastes gross to me now. Bacon doesn't always taste gross, but that's because it's got sugar in it, and it's like having a bit of that drug that I miss, and boom, there it is. Hey, Luke. Good to see you, brother. Luke's an old friend of mine from Georgia and a supporter on Patreon. Appreciate that, Luke. Adam says he was a vegan, and I'm 100% right. Matthew's on the anti-vegan diet. I try not to give too much of a hard time to the vegans because I know there are some good people out there who are vegans, but I can't help but joke with them like the shirt here. I love vegetarians. They're delicious. They are delicious. I'm trying to find a way to be positive with them and encourage them to something good. I don't want this to become a tribal battle between vegans and carnivores, but a lot of times when somebody's pushing it to be a battle, got to fight back. What's in the background behind the mic? Yep, that's the pillow we were talking about. Put that up there, Ian. Looking for some questions. Luke Mitchell says, sadly, eating right is a political statement now. Absolutely right. And I've lost a couple of patrons over the political comments that I've made lately. And of course, even delving into them affects me in a negative way. One of my dogs is having nightmares over here. Rhea? Fizz? Oh, they want to come in. Hold on. Come on, Fizz. Don't start fighting with Sam. All right, where was I? Yeah, eating is a political statement right now. Yeah, I didn't really want to talk about politics on the channel. I've been talking politics most of my life. I mean, I was a history major in college. I had to fight with my professors tooth and nail. I had to make sure I did my research deep. Fizz, don't start fighting with Sam. Because, they were looking for excuses to fail me. They didn't want me in their system. I remember walking down the hall and having two professors. I could hear them talking to each other from office to office. And they were talking about me and my, the way I was outspoken about so many things. And I realized then that was early in my college career. I said, this is going to be an uphill battle because I have beliefs that go against what they're teaching here. And they strengthened those beliefs, if anything, because they forced me to dig deeper in what I needed to know. And the more I study and the more I research, the more I realize that we're being lied to. We're being led down a false path for reasons of power and control. And it's an ugly thing. And these same people are the people who are trying to tell us not to eat meat. They want to give us digitally printed vegetable protein, and they want to give us bugs to eat, and they want to force us to eat stuff that is going to keep you sick, fat, and unhealthy. and ultimately pliable. They want to make sure that they can control the masses because they like being the masters of the universe, and I have a hard time getting into it a whole lot because it upsets me so much. But we have to talk about these things. We have to be able to look at the truth. If we're going to ever overcome the lie, we've got to speak the truth. Fizgig, come here. Come here. Calm down. Fizgig likes to express his dominance over Sam, and Sam puts up with it because he's little and he's special. How long have I been on? Holy mackerel, it's almost 2 hours. I can't believe how time goes by. And I've only covered like 3 of the 20 questions I set aside. I'm going to scroll through and look for any super chats. Got to make sure I take care of the folks who did chip in here. Trying to get caught up on all these. I appreciate all of the comments, and I will go back and read through these when I have a chance for the ones that are here. And I thank you guys because it does help the algorithm, and it helps other people too, especially when you guys are giving comments that offer constructive information or experience. Okay, here's a super chat from O'Neill Leoness. And I will, like I said, guys, I'll go back and find out how this works where I can see these instantly. Hey there, I'm 33 years old. I'm on day 12 of Lion Diet. My joint pain, where did it go? Here it is. My joint pain, my joint don't pop as much in the mornings anymore. My teeth are whiter. I sleep less though. Oh, I appreciate that information, O'Neill, and I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much. I can't believe it's been almost 2 hours. Thank you guys for sticking around with me, especially with me being slow at getting to all these questions. All right, looks like I got through all the super chats there. Let me go back and see if there's any other questions I missed. Question. Not related to diet at all. Did you find homes for Toby's kittens? Yes, we did. We found homes for Toby's kittens. Yeah, and I understand this, Zortan PR. You're in the Facebook group and said hi there. This is not my real name, and I don't have my picture due to my work and political leanings. I can understand that. It's just, I try to find ways to make sure I keep people out. I've had people come in that want to share pornographic information or who want to share false information or who are spamming the other people in there, and I'm trying to do the best I can to keep those people out. If you're trying to join and you have no Facebook picture and you're not sharing any information and your account is fairly recent, send me a message explaining, what your reasoning is for that, and I'll take it into account because I'm just trying to protect people from being harassed over making decisions that are good for their health. Tim Creteau says, what's up, Paisan? Tim's been a supporter in my patron group before, and he's been a long-time viewer. MG Galante, Mike from New Jersey. Appreciate you too, brother. All right, Zortan has a question here. I have another question. I love to eat a lot, and I'm eating 2 to 3 steaks with fat, and I still want to snack. Not eating carbs or sugars or of any kind, and the only plant-based is garlic. Well, best thing I can tell you is, eat what's going to get you through. I think at some point you'll find that you will eat less, because one of the early experiences I had on Lion Diet was there was periods where I would wake up and go throughout my day, and I was used to having breakfast first thing in the morning and then having lunch right at noon. But once I had started doing Lion Diet for a few months, I would realize, man, it's 2:00. I haven't even thought about eating yet. I haven't been hungry at all. I'm still full from yesterday. You'll find that your body adjusts. And especially when you're burning your own fat for fuel, it's going to be quite different than once you get down to the weight you want to be at. You might find that your hunger increases then too. But I go back and forth. There's some days that I'll eat 3 whole meals worth in one day. Some days I can go all day without even thinking about food. More often than not, I need something to eat every day because I'm so much more active than I used to be. There was a time if you told me that I had to do a job where I was going to be on my feet for more than 30 minutes at a time, I'd have said, forget it. If I was going to be walking a lot, now on my current job, 8 hours a day, I very rarely ever get a chance to sit, and it's not a problem at all. And it's all thanks to Lion Diet. So, I mean, you'll be surprised at what changes if you stick with it. But eat till you're full. Eat till you're full, and then don't eat again until you're full again. But try to be prepared, because you don't want to have those moments come where you're hungry and you don't have some meat ready or something that you can cook fairly easily. All right, here's another question from James. 3 months in and still having diarrhea. How do I overcome? Most likely, eat a little less fat. Make sure you're staying away from anything in your diet that would be vegetables or carbohydrates or sugar. And even some things that you might not think of, like if you're using artificial sweeteners or you're drinking diet sodas, if you're having stevia or something like that, you can get what's called a cephalic insulin response. And that tells your body to start producing insulin so that it can start dealing with sugar. And when there's no sugar there, it makes you insulin resistant, and that can cause some problems. But I mean, ultimately, when it comes to loose stools and hard stools, fat regulation is probably the biggest thing that I can recommend. If you're getting too loose, you're getting too much fat, most likely. Or you're having those vegetables or some other carbohydrates. Because when I did Atkins diet, I was eating steaks like all the time. I would go to this restaurant that served steaks on their buffet, and I would get their to-go box and just load it up with steaks back when it was like $5 a pound back in 2006. Gosh, those were the good old days. But I would also eat a green salad every day. And the entire 6 months that I did the induction phase of the Atkins diet, I had diarrhea the whole time. But I haven't had that but the first couple of weeks on Lion Diet and when I cheat. Whenever I eat something, or not necessarily cheat, because I do experiment sometimes. When I experiment with certain vegetables, when I experiment with any other food that's outside of my way of eating that I know works for me, it often causes diarrhea. So make sure you're not getting anything else in there. And a lot of people don't consider diet soda to be bad, but ultimately, those sweeteners will make you crave sugar more than eating sugar will. So if you're battling cravings, diet soda is going to send you in the wrong direction anyway. Trying to see if I missed any other questions. If you guys got any questions, throw them in. I'm going to go back to the end of this list and look and see what some of the current stuff is. I don't know how many people are even here right now. Where would I see that at? Let's see. $148 people here, so there's enough people to throw in some questions. Scott Babel just asked, are you getting another cow share anytime soon? Would love to see a video unboxing of what you get. Thanks. I'm probably not doing a share again because I'm buying the whole beefs because I need all that meat now. The only thing I have a hard time with is how much burger meat you get. Even though I've been very careful to eat a lot of burger along with this current cow, I still have like 50% of the original burger meat left. I have most of my ribeyes left because I'm saving them for last as much as I can. But I've blown through all the the top sirloin. I just put the last top sirloin in yesterday. I got maybe a couple of pieces of briskets left. I got 2 eye of rounds that I haven't done anything with. And I have a couple of packs of T-bones left, but I've got half as much of the burger left. That's the only problem I have with getting a whole beef. I may have to find a way to do more with shanks and other pieces of the animal that I'm not used to cooking. One thing I will say about buying a whole beef, when you first pick it up, you're like, this is all I get? It doesn't feel like a lot. But when I go to the store and buy meat and I spend $200 or $300 at a time on a few packs of meat, if I were to multiply that, it's probably more expensive. It's almost always more expensive doing it that way, because when I buy a whole cow from where I get them from now, it still like averages out to around $9 a pound, $8 a pound. And most of the meat that I buy from the store, I'm not going to buy hamburger meat at the store because there's so many of the things with flavoring. And a lot of times at $4.99 a pound or $5.99 a pound, why wouldn't I just get some chuck roast? Because I can get chuck roast for close to the same price as hamburger meat when I go to the store. And if I really want to enjoy this way of eating, I'm going to try to get strip steaks and sirloins and T-bones. T-bones too, because they got the filet built in. But ribeye is my favorite. If they're on sale, I'm getting as much as I can get. Doritos are vegan, right? Yeah, that's pretty good. The per pound cost of the last quarter cow we got was $3.59 a pound here in rural Northwest Pennsylvania. Isn't that insane? That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear you can get something that inexpensive, because things being what they are, it's tough. Okay. Question, have you heard that having cancer could slow carnivore results? 2 months in, now stiff joints. I haven't heard that cancer could slow carnivore results, but I have heard of the benefits of going carnivore if you want to prevent cancer from taking hold or thriving once you get it. Cancer cells thrive on glucose. They eat sugar at rapid amounts, and the less glucose is in your system, the less food there is for the cancer to eat. Cancer cells also are loaded with insulin receptors. So the more your body is producing insulin, the more stronger the cancer cells are. I'm not saying it's the cure for cancer, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely a big part of the problem. When you look at the history of cancer and the history of what we've been putting in our food, the more sugar has entered our diet, the more cancer we've had. Even with all the cutbacks that people have made in smoking, we still haven't cut back the cancer. We've cut back a little bit of lung cancer, but we're still getting all new kind of forms of cancer now, and the sugar consumption is 4,900% higher than it was 120 years ago. Well, people didn't get cancer all the time. Now, cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia, these things are just part of life for like 2 out of 3 people these days at some point in their life. That wasn't always the case. This food is definitely a big part of it, and going carnivore seems to be a big way to reverse and stop a lot of these things. What is your wife currently doing? She eats carnivore mostly, especially when I'm making sure that she has the food handy. She's very easily tempted to buy things that she shouldn't when she's out and about a lot, but she tries to avoid bread still. She doesn't always consider things that I consider bread, like she'll eat something with a wrap, and I'm like, honey, it's still bread. It's still, you wad that wrap up, it's a big wad of dough. You're not doing yourself any good. And then she'll cut that out, but it's tough for her because she hadn't had that moment that says, I've got to do this. But I think she's, now that I don't want to say she's getting up there in age, Lord, I'll never be able to hear the end of it. She's 11 years younger than me, and she should be as healthier than I am. And she's struggling with some things right now that I don't struggle with anymore. And it's starting to help her realize, yeah, I need to cut back even more. She's actually found that she loves club soda instead of, she used to be a ginger ale-aholic. She just loved to have her ginger ale at least twice a day. And she used to get some particular type that was very popular where she was from up in Michigan. And I used to buy it for her as a treat before I started eating this way because that was what she wanted. But now she says, I can't believe that I love club soda. It's refreshing and crisp. And I know I'm not getting any junk in it. So she's starting to realize. So she's trying to go carnivore. She's just having a hard time breaking free from the full addiction. Oh, good point, Kathy. Coffee and tea are laxatives. So if you're doing coffee and tea on a carnivore diet and you're having diarrhea, that could definitely be an issue. I forgot to mention that earlier for the diarrhea question. This is very true. Sears, Leoness, always remember there's nothing wrong with being hungry for a while. There is nothing wrong with being hungry for a while. But if you do that on a regular basis because you're trying to restrict your intake, that makes it actually harder if you're doing that because you want to lose weight. If you do that too often, you're going to have a battle with your hypothalamus, is the way Dr. Peterson puts it. And your hypothalamus is going to win. It's going to force you, like mentally, it's going to make you want to eat things that you shouldn't eat more often than you should. So you got to be careful with how you manage fasting. I would say it's probably best to have a regular cycle of fasting, maybe once a month, or some people maybe once a week can do it. Depends on how long you're going to do it for. OMAD is a great way, 1 meal a day. You could do 1 meal a day on a regular basis for a long period of time. What gets hard about OMAD, though, is like I say, is if you eat your 1 meal a day too early in the morning, it can be really tough before going to bed. And also sometimes eating 2 pounds or more of meat in one sitting can be rough on a small stomach. So that can be difficult. But yeah, you don't want to overdo it with the hunger thing. But I think that fasting does have a good place. Thank you, Pula. Been watching a long time. Glad to be a part of this first live. What electrolytes do you recommend? Element or Redmond Relight? I haven't tried Element. They seem to be very into finding somebody with a lot more reach than I have, I guess, because somebody from there reached out to me once, but then I never heard back from them. And Redmond, I found Redmond on my own because I liked the way their salt tastes. And then I reached out to Redmond and found out about their affiliate program. So I was recommending them because I liked them. I tried Relight and I like the way it tastes. Now I only use, somebody else asked a question about this. I only use the unflavored Relight. See if I can find the question. I think it was this one. What about citric acid in Relight by Redmond? It also says in the ingredients that it contains natural flavors. That's the flavored Relight. Redmond, like any other company, wants to make money in as many areas as they can. You know, I can't fault them for that. And people demand flavored drinks. So it's going to be a thing. If they want to be able to capture some of that market, I understand it. I recommend only doing the unflavored because it doesn't have citric acid. It doesn't have any other flavors mixed in. It doesn't have natural flavors or artificial flavors. It's just the salt and the potassium and the magnesium. And personally, I love a scoop of Relight in my hot water in the morning because I do enjoy having a hot cup of liquid that reminds me of what I used to do. I was a coffee snob before this. So it's like one of those things that allows me to enjoy a hot cup of drink. And I love the way it tastes without any flavoring because I like the salty flavor. And when it's hot, it's delicious. So I like Redmond Relight for that. I'm sure Element is good, but I've heard the same things with their ingredients. So you got to watch the ingredients on any of these supplements. And of course, I'm going to recommend Redmond because they are an affiliate of mine. So like when you go to the redmond.com, are redmond.life and you want to place an order there, you use my discount code Dante, or you can use the link in the description of any of my videos and you can buy Redmond, and it helps support me and the channel, but it also gets you the 15% discount. Now they'll give you a 15% discount just for going to their website. So they didn't do that before. I kind of hate that they started doing that. So I'm asking them, if you're going to give us an option to give people a discount, let us be the one to give the discount, because I think it's kind of unfair that they can capture that market because somebody forgot the name or didn't use the link. But again, that's the world we live in. I still love their products, so that's why I recommend them. It's not about how they sell them that matters to me. It's about how the product is. Okay, I think I've gotten through all the questions that were older. I'm going to relook at the end here. Element does not use citric acid in their watermelon salt or chocolate salt unflavored. I'm sensitive to citric acid. I'm willing to bet there's some ingredients in there that I would probably object to, but hey, you know what? Whatever works for you guys. If you like Element, tell them they need to reach out to me, because then maybe I can start offering that as an option here that helps support the channel too. But I'm not against anything that's going to help you guys overcome the cravings and do the things you need to do. If you need to get those extra potassium and magnesium, it's really a hard thing to know how to regulate, is what I've been able to find when it comes to electrolytes. 99% of the time, salt is all I need. I like Relight because I know I get a little bit of potassium and I get a little bit of magnesium, and I love it. It's just part of my morning process now. And especially if I'm going to exercise, I'll usually have a scoop of Relight when I go to have that. But I'm not against anything that's going to help you stay on a carnivore way of eating. What is your email address? Would love to talk with you as I went through the crazy COVID debacle in nursing home as you did. Carnivore almost 4 years, Lion, many months. My labs are great. CAC is 0. Laura, my email address is in the description of every video that I post. You just got to scroll through them. But it's DolphinsFan, DOLFINSPHAN. You just swap the phonetic spelling of F in dolphins and fan. And it's at hotmail.com. This is an address I've had for close to 20 years, so I use it for everything. And yeah, you can email me there. Is club soda high in phosphorus? I don't know of any phosphorus being in club soda. Some club sodas don't have anything but carbonated water. Some of them I've noticed, like the ones I usually get from Publix, have potassium citrate and one other thing I can't recall, but it was not an ingredient that I had a problem with. It was actually helpful. The only problem I find with club soda in general is you're swallowing gas, and a lot of people who do carnivore diet find that they don't have a whole lot of gas if they stay away from sodas, but you're still going to have gas issues at one end or the other if you're drinking sodas. It's going to be a part of the problem. But you know what? I like my bubbles, so it's hard for me to give up on that. And they don't affect my way of eating, so I live with it. Donna Peter encouraging my wife to stick with carnivore or keto. She's coming around. She's coming around, and she's getting better. Two-Face says he does water all day long with salt during the day, no electrolytes. I agree. That works for me for the most part. And I could probably do without the Relight if I wanted to. It doesn't hurt me, and I like adding it. I think you can get caught up too much in all these supplements and then wind up wasting a bunch of money on expensive urine, because ultimately that's probably all you're getting. And I found now, after almost 3 years, I don't need nearly as much salt as I used to. I found the salt to be very important for my energy throughout the day for the first 2 years of the way I was doing this. But I found lately that I do just fine with a lot less salt in my water, and I'll eat salt, pretty much the same amount of salt on my meat. Yes, there will be a replay, Penny. And as a matter of fact, goodness gracious, it's over 2 hours. I try not to let my videos get this long, because then people don't want to come in and check them out. I try to keep these things as short as I can. Even the ones you see that are an hour long, I'm trying to keep it short and piffy as much as I can, because I know a lot of people just aren't going to click on a video that's going to require that much time from them. And also, I don't like to encourage people sitting and watching YouTube for hours at a time anyway, because there are so many better things you can do for your house, for your body, if you would get away from watching YouTube so much. Hell, here I am telling people not to watch YouTube so much. So much for that's going to help me. But you know what? That's the thing. I'm here to give you guys the truth, and I'm willing to take the hit. If it causes you to spend less time watching my videos, so be it. I want you guys to be healthy and happy. Yeah, Dr. Chafee says he doesn't use, I don't think he doesn't think salt is a heavy requirement, but he even concedes that some people find that it is helpful and that they find that it's important. I noticed that I was getting a little bit of stiffness in my legs, and I remember talking to you guys about how I was doing yoga to try to help stretch out some more. The yoga didn't help so much, but when I started to cut back on the salt, I noticed that the stiffness kind of went away. So I think at some point, maybe your body just doesn't need it as much as it used to, because I'm noticing that for me. Like right now, this is what I've had, and I've had 3 or 4 of these today. I haven't added salt to any of them yet. I did have my relight this morning, and I had meat throughout the day, which has salt on it, but I haven't felt a need for it. And I even went and picked up several, like 800 pounds worth of fence equipment today to help my mother-in-law get ready this weekend. We're going to be putting a fence out for her dogs. And I had the energy to do that still. And there was a time before eating this way, I wouldn't even have had the energy to do that regardless of what salt I was eating. Absolutely true, Lucia. Citric acid is fermented with molasses and sugar. I didn't even know that part, but Aspergillus niger is where it comes from. It's black mold. It's a type of mold or a fungus, however you want to downplay it. It causes inflammation in the body. And citric acid makes the food taste tangy, and all those other words that don't actually mean anything except that, that's good. And it tells your brain you want more of that. But it's like the drug that hooks you. It's like watching Breaking Bad. People get hooked on it because they have to keep going back for more. Citric acid is what they put in there to make it taste better, so you'll keep going back for more, because when you crave that comfort food, it's the same comfort food that's causing you to crave comfort food, causing the pain, the inflammation in your body that's making you feel like you need something to eat that garbage. And that's why I recommend people avoid anything that says citric acid on the package is going to cause inflammation, which is going to cause you to crave things that you don't want. And it's going to cause you to have pain you definitely don't want. So, because if it says citric acid on the package, it's not natural citric acid from, say, an orange or something like that. Not that that's the best source of anything either, but it's not what you think it is. All of it is manufactured. And it's manufactured from Aspergillus niger. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I often pronounce these chemical names wrong, or these Latin or Greek, whatever names they are for all this stuff. Is the Chef Maker better to you than an air fryer? Well, the Chef Maker basically is an air fryer. It's just got artificial intelligence that uses to measure the temperature of the meat while it's going. And it goes through several stages of searing and browning. I actually have a video coming out on the 15th talking specifically about the Chef Maker, so I'll leave you guys to be able to watch that. And there's videos that I've made talking about it before. But it just makes it easy. I can stick the probe in, I can put the meat in, I can set it to the way I want it to be cooked, and then I can go do what I got to do. I don't have to worry about watching it or leaving it in there too long or anything, because I'm going to get a notification on my phone when it's done. If I'm outside doing something in the yard, I know my food's ready. I can come in and eat it so that it doesn't sit. Because if it sits in the air fryer too long, if it sits in the heat too long, it's going to keep cooking. So I want to take it out as quickly as possible. But it takes all the guesswork out, and I don't have any overcooked and undercooked steaks. That's why I like the Dreo Chef Maker. I mean, to be honest with you, if I had my druthers, I'd like to have one of those infrared cookers that are like $1,200 or more. I mean, like the starting price on some of those things is around $1,000. So if I could have one of those, that would be great. But I mean, I'm not made of money either, so I'm looking for something that's relatively inexpensive. The Chef Maker is more than most of your air fryers out there, but it keeps me from overcooking steaks and undercooking steaks and wasting money on my meat. It makes my life easier, so that's why I like the Chef Maker. If you can afford the Chef Maker, pull the trigger, but I get great results with my regular air fryer too. Amen. Just a lot more checking and poking with a meat thermometer. And by the way, Meter Plus is a great way. I have a deal with them where you can get the meter. You can see that in all my videos too. MEATER Plus. And it's a Wi-Fi probe or Bluetooth probe that you can put into your meat and then stick that in your air fryer, and you'll get a notification on that. So that's one way to use an air fryer together with another device. And you can even use the meter when you're cooking on a grill or on a cast iron pan or something like that. So it gives you a few more it gives you, you break free from just being inside the air fryer only. But you're looking at, $100 for a single meter. Usually they're on sale for around $79. And if you get the 4-block kit, that's usually $3.99. I think they run it on sale for $2.99. If you're doing a lot of cooking, that can be useful too. How much your air fryers on average, I don't even know. Generally, you can buy an air fryer for as low as about $50 for a really small one that doesn't do a whole lot, all the way up to about $150 for your normal something you're going to buy at Sam's Club or in the store, maybe $200 if it does pressure cooking too. The Dreo Chef Maker is $379. It does do a lot more than your typical air fryer. And I'm willing to bet that, especially since it's a new product, that price is going to keep coming down. There will be a special in that video that I mentioned coming up on the 15th, so keep an eye out for that. But, usually around $100, $150. The Power XL model that I used for well over a year, they aren't the most lasting things. I mean, I probably need to get a new one each year when I've dealt with Power XL. But I think in the long run, I don't hardly ever use my stove except now to cook eggs and bacon for my family. We don't hardly ever use the oven, although I probably could. I need to venture into some other ways of cooking meat. But the air fryer just makes life so easy. And the Dreo Chef Maker even made it easier. So that's why I love it. Thank you, Joy. I'm glad you're enjoying it. She loves her Dreo Chef Maker. I think I kind of answered this. It's better to me than a regular air fryer. It's just a more advanced air fryer. I love how easy it is to clean too. That a lot of the people who comment on it, and you'll see a lot of comments in that video on the 15th that talk about cleaning being one of their favorite features about it. Yes, in that video coming up on the 15th, Amber, I will be talking about the sous vide settings specifically because unless I'm just in a terrible hurry, I like to use that every time when I'm cooking. Pula says, I find the whole kitchen hard to clean on Carnivore. Laugh out loud. Yeah, especially if you're cooking on the stove top because you're going to get splatter and you got to clean that up and makes things greasy, and you just got to have the right tools in place to clean up grease. Well, I'm going to use your advice here, Donna. Even though I know you're just kidding, you are absolutely right, because when I make them too long, I'm not going to get a whole lot of people viewing later. And I want to encourage people to be able to watch and ask the questions. So I think I'm going to end it here shortly. Let me take a look and see if there were any questions that I wanted to cover specifically. Would you post another video on how to cook ribs in the crock pot? And what do you do with leftover grease in the crock pot? Do you store it? Do you store it or eat it all with the meal? Thank you. When it comes to that, yes, I will do another video on ribs very shortly. I've got one more pack of ribs that I want to cook, so I was going to do that just because this person asked for it. And what do I do with the leftover grease in the crock pot? If I had more time, I would store it. You got to go through a purifying process if you really want to store tallow in the proper way. And I don't always have time for that. Ultimately, I usually wind up giving some of it to my dogs. And if there's too much left, I'll just throw it out. You know, it's sacrilege to some people, but at some point you've got to make a decision what you're going to do with these things. And sometimes I wind up just throwing it out. What I do most often, though, is I will cook, say, ribs one day, and then the next day or a day or two later, because I can usually make those ribs last for a couple of days, I'll throw some top round in there or some brisket or a mixture of those things because, you know, brisket's a lot softer than top round, and I'll mix them all together so I'll have a good mix of meat. But I'll keep using that same fat and juices to cook the next piece and the next piece and the next piece. And I'll usually do that for up to a week. But then I like to either use up what's left, either with the dogs or throwing it out, or I try to save it if I can. But, you know, it does take time. There's videos to learn how to render your fat and get it into nice white blocks. You can make your own soap. There's all kind of stuff you can do with that leftover fat. Just got to have the time to do those things. When you leave the old juices in your crock pot for 3 or 4 days, do you leave the crock pot on warm the whole time? Yes, I do. Get a hairball, Sam? Derek said, yesterday was my wedding. I ate normal and drank a lot. Now that the cravings brought me to eat 2 kebab, I want to start after 35 days. Should I count from new or keep counting? I say do whatever makes you happy, man. Don't worry about these little details. Just get back on the horse and stay on the horse. If you know you're eating the right thing, keep eating the right thing. When you make a mistake, don't let that mistake bog you down. I talked to Sam, and now Fizzgig is attacking him again. What percentage of your diet is cooked? What percentage of animal products you consume are cooked? All of them. I'm not a big tartare guy. I don't really want to eat raw food. Fizz, can you wait just a moment? I'm trying to get through a few of these questions. Okay? He's not going to stop. What do you cook your food in if doing beef, salt, and water? If you aren't using a grill or air fryer, do you cook in the pan with butter? When I'm not using a grill or an air fryer, if I'm cooking the pan, I do often use butter, but tallow is probably better in my situation because of my issue with dairy. A lot of people recommend ghee. I haven't had the time to try to make ghee or any of that. I'm not a big fan of the way it tastes, and it's a lot harder than butter, so I don't naturally go to it, but I have used it before, and that's a good option for you. Forgive me for asking this. Are you seeing any signs that loose skin is going away? First answer is yes, but it takes a long time. Autophagy is probably one of the best things you can do for dealing with this. I know that I'm going to have the same thing occur. I'm curious if it goes away. I saw a woman who was on carnivore diet lose a lot of weight, and she has no loose skin. I think she said it took a really long time. I'm sure some people out there take the shortcut on that and get surgery. I don't think that's a great idea. There's possible side effects that are negative to that. And I think fasting is one of the best ways to deal with loose skin. There was another doctor, I want to say it was Ken Berry, but it might have been a different doctor, that talked about eating grass-fed, grass-finished beef, which, by the way, it's really hard to find any grass-fed and finished beef to begin with, let alone that is raised properly enough to make the cows fat and make the meat any good. If you can find a good local rancher and you can see how they're raising their animals, if it's anything like the videos that I've done with Miles Moore over at Big Mo Cattle, if you can find somebody who's raising their beef that way, you're going to get a great omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. And the doctors that I've heard talked about how our skin replaces itself about every 3 months. When you're getting a lot of that omega-6 out that you get at a much higher rate in your regular corn-fed beef, then you're going to have the benefits of that. And that should help with the loose skin as well. But fasting is the big part if you want to get rid of loose skin. That does the most for it. it's just it's tough for some people to be disciplined about that. I know it's hard for me sometimes, even though I have enjoyed the benefits. Hey Dante, did you OMAD while on land diet, or did you eat a few times per day? I mostly eat a few times per day, and I've done OMAD for months at a time. I actually had a whole series of videos on doing OMAD, so just search my channel name with OMAD, and you'll see a whole bunch of stuff out there on that. Organ meat. Dante, I hear all the people that eat organs on long-term lion diet or carnivore deals with all kinds of issues. Did you ever incorporate organs? Love your videos, by the way. Thank you. Yes, I have not had any issues, but I don't overdo organ meat. I don't think you should eat more organ meat per capita to the amount of meat you would get buying a whole cow. If you buy a whole cow, you eat the same percentage relative to the amount of organ meat that's in the cow to the regular meat that you eat. Some people go crazy and eat liver every day. I think that you can overdo it that way. You're going to get a lot more heme and several other things that way. So if you eat the amount of organ meat that would be relative to the amount of beef that you would get out of eating a whole cow, I don't think you're going to have any issues. There may be some other medical issue that comes up with eating organ meat that I'm not familiar with, but I haven't had any issues. And I used to hate liver. I mean, it was my nemesis when it came to food. But now I'd stick it on a frying pan with some butter or tallow, put it on for a minute and a half on one side, flip it over a minute and a half on the other. It's still extra rare. Perfect. You overcook liver, it tastes awful. It tastes chalky and just terrible. If you undercook it or you cook it a lot less than you would think you would want to, liver is not bad at all. Dante, I just started the lion diet 1 week ago. I have a question for you. I'm wondering why you shaved your head. Did your hair get thinner on carnivore? I have really long hair and I want to know if I need to be prepared for thinning hair. Thank you. I've had a couple of people tell me that they thought their hair was getting thinner because of this, but these were people in my age group that were probably like me, already losing their hair and just starting to see it more when, for whatever reason, or I think there was some self-deception involved there because I didn't start losing my hair when I started eating this way. If you go back and watch some of my earlier videos, and I was kind of careful not to show my bald spot because I was ashamed of it, but I had a big bald spot back here and I used to comb my long hair over the top of it or across it. And even then it would be showing when I didn't think it was showing. But I'd go back 11 years in pictures and I can see I was getting that bald spot. And then I was losing it up here for a long time. It was just going back further and further. I always had a high forehead, but it kind of moved back about another 2 inches over up until I, started eating this way. The thing I had always said I would do is that if I started to lose my hair, I wasn't going to do the comb over thing. But I was lying to myself for 10 years, telling myself that was just a cowlick. It's not really me losing my hair. But once I started to get comfortable with the way my face looked and the way I felt about my body, I realized that I could do exactly what I said I would do and just shave it all off. I even tried it with a high and tight for a while, but I still had the bald spot. So I said, you know what? I don't like the way that looks either. I'm just faking it. My hair's getting thin. Just shave it off. And some people say I look younger this way, so I like it. I did it on purpose. Oh, yeah, and I do get a lot of this. People tell me their hair has gotten thicker and healthier on carnivore diet. I've noticed that in the hair that I still have on my body, I don't have as much gray hair. I used to get gray hairs on my arms. I used to get gray hairs in other areas. I don't see any anymore in those areas. So, but when I let my hair grow a little bit on my head for a while, it looks like, I still got a good bit of gray up there, but I mean, a lot of that was going gray, especially on the sides and in my beard, I had a lot of gray, but I haven't let that grow enough to really look at it. I like having it bald. Somebody asked about rosacea because I've had rosacea for years right here and right here. And it started to come back when I started eating steaks at a restaurant that told me they didn't use vegetable oils to cook the steak, but they didn't tell me that they weren't using, that they were using Vegeline on the grill, which has canola oil and sunflower oil and one other oil I can't remember, all three of which are horrible for you. And I'd been eating that way for like 6 months. About 2 or 3 times a week I would eat there. And then all of a sudden I started having this problem, and it's taken a while to go away. But I also get it when I drink coffee, and I had the coffee issue recently. So still trying to get away from that stuff because it all went away. And when I spend more time in the sun, I haven't been able to spend as much time in the sun. I've been so busy lately. Oh, and when it comes to the veins, let's see, they're on this side right here. Those have always been there. I can go back to pictures of when I was a kid and I could see those. It's just when I was heavier, they didn't stand out as much. So I don't think it has anything to do with the diet, except that they're more visible because I don't have a fat head anymore. Ever eat any greens? Never. Not in 3 years. I haven't eaten any greens. How long do you cook meat in the crock pot? Usually about 6 to 8 hours. Sometimes I go as much as 12 hours though. The only problem is when you overcook meat, you do cook out a lot of the vitamins and the minerals and the good stuff that's in there. I don't know how to say minerals, but the stuff that makes meat good for you, if you overcook it, you're gonna lose some of that. So be careful. I'd say 6 to 8 hours is good. Let's see. One last question, and then I'm going to check to see if there were any more questions in the comments. How long after you start lion diet did lipomas disappear? You give me hope. 2 months into carnivore with the lost. Can't see the rest of this because my screen is fighting with me. Let me move this up. I've lost the weight. I'm discovering new ones. All are pretty small. I made a video talking about the lipomas. I used to have lipomas in several spots on my arms and in different places, and I had them in my back in several places. And I noticed one day that all my lipomas were gone. Lipomas are like little hard capsulized balls of fat. And I had been told by doctors that they were hereditary. And my brother, my half brother on my father's side has lots of them, and he's heavy also. So I thought, well, I guess it's just something I got to live with. But then after doing lion diet for over a year, I noticed one. I was like, hey, they're not here anymore. So I made a video letting people know if that was a problem, that it would be something that you could probably do doing lion diet. I don't know exactly when they went away. All I know is after doing it for at least a year, I suddenly noticed they were all gone. Now, some people get lipomas so bad, and I did get one that was bad enough to have it surgically removed because it was causing me to have backaches. But some people get them all the time like that they're so bad that they want to have them surgically removed. And yes, lion diet has been a good way. I think regular carnivore diet, anything that causes your body to consume its own fat, because lipomas are fat, even though they're stored in a weird way, your body is going to consume that fat and those lipomas are going to go down. All right, let me just look through these last few comments, see if there was any more questions, and then we'll end this ridiculously long, for me, video. But I've enjoyed talking to you guys. Oh, thank you, Kimberly. That's very nice. Fred said the spots on his cheeks disappeared on carnivore 10 months in. Oils in coffee go rancid. Yeah, I hear that mold in coffee can be a big issue too. So the quality of the coffee could be a problem with it. Do you use sugar? No. No, I avoid sugar at all costs. I have a problem with regulation of it, and I don't like to have any sugar. I think the last time I had sugar, I had a bite of a honeycomb that was in the charcuterie platter we got when my wife and I stayed at the Equestrian Hotel at the World Equestrian Center for her birthday. And it was one of those things that I did used to love, so I took a little piece of it, and really it was so sweet. I was like, it's too much. So I didn't spit it out because my wife would have been upset if I wasted it. So I just finished that. But I haven't had any since then, and I haven't had any for a long time before that. Of course he misses Krispy Kreme donuts. Addicts miss their addictions. In some ways, it is like cocaine. Sugar, they found that it was actually easier to get rats to quit eating cocaine than it was for them to quit eating sugar. What does my current routine look like? Hey, Will. Will's one of the guys that did a carnivore conversation with me. I hope you're doing well, Will. It's nice to see you again. My current routine is I'm getting my at least 50 push-ups one day and at least 50 squats one day. I'm walking 2 to 3 miles every day, either at work or a combination of at work and doing my walks at home. Typically, when I walk at work and I walk at home, I get at least 6 miles that day. And when I walk at home, I usually ruck. Sometimes I've been taking my camera with me though, and when I do my walk and talks, I guess my camera's getting a little old or something. If the memory card gets loose inside of there for even a brief second, I lose everything I recorded. So it's been frustrating me when I'm doing my walk and talks. But yeah, that's mostly that. And then on Mondays, I've been playing basketball with this group of guys. I didn't go this past Monday because Katie decided to take the night off, and my wife's home. I'm going to be home. So I stayed with her. But I've been doing basketball, and boy, that one-on-one, the first time I did it, I didn't think I could do that again. But then the next time I played, we played some 3 or 4-on-4, 3-on-3 or 4-on-4. I can't remember. I think it was 4-on-4 basketball. And that was a lot less intense than playing 1-on-1 for 30 minutes. Playing 4-on-4 for like an hour was a good workout. I was surprised I could do it. I was glad to be able to do it. Do you eat any plants or vegetables? No. The only thing that would be an exception recently is, like I said, I had been having coffee, and that was because I was working a swing shift and I was making excuses about it. And I don't like it. Makes me feel chronically fatigued, and that's not good because it makes me need more of it all the time. And then when I try to quit it, I get the caffeine headaches, and it also tends to cause a lot of upset stomach issues with me. Most people do fine with coffee from what I hear. Dr. Barry doesn't, bemoan coffee, but I think there are some things in there that could be a problem for some people, and I'm one of those people. So I do a lot better just having some hot water and some relight. So I'm trying to get back to that. I tried to go cold turkey at the beginning of October, and the headaches were just overwhelmingly bad. I listened to Dr. Barry talk about how you want to wean yourself off. So I've actually been doing that for a while now, and I'm down to where I've had half a cup of coffee. I add hot water with it, and some days I just do decaf when I'm at work, for instance, when I have access to it, because I don't have any decaf coffee here. My wife drinks coffee all the time. That makes it hard too, because I want to join my wife in what she's doing. So, but I'm trying to encourage her to go the right direction without pushing too hard. Yep, see, some people say coffee causes them to have stomach issues. Any dairy or egg? I do still have butter occasionally, especially when I'm having tougher meat. It really makes it go down a little easier. But I really think when I eat butter, it slows my fat loss. And I've been trying to still get away from the love handles. But the picture you see at the beginning of the video, I was about 10 pounds lighter than I am now. And the one thing I haven't been able to get back out that has apparently slowed me down is butter. So I probably don't do well with butter. Some people do great. Even the fat loss is wonderful with butter. Like Steak and Butter Gal and people who do BBBE and don't have any problems. That's bacon, butter, beef, and eggs, I think. So it's different for different people. I have such a sensitivity to things that I think dairy is not good for me. Eggs, be real careful with liquid eggs. A lot of places that serve things that have liquid eggs are loaded with citric acid. If I get eggs when I go out to eat, if I can't see the yolk, I'm not going to have it. And I typically only eat eggs if I am really hungry and I don't have access to beef for some reason. Like when I'm at work, they provide us with some food, but beef is rarely one of the things they provide, if ever. So sometimes I will have a poached egg if I'm getting a provided meal. And I'm just grateful to be able to get something when I'm hungry like that. But most of the time I plan ahead. I'm going to make a video soon where I talk about how using the crock pot and getting something to take with me when I go to work when I'm trying to rush out in the morning, so it'll make it easier for people to know how to get through the day. That's one of the questions I get a lot on Facebook is how do you get through a day when you're working 8, 10, 12 hours or whatever. Raw milk I haven't tried, but I have such a difficult time with dairy in general. I don't find any need to try to bring it back in. All right, guys. Wow. 2 hours and 42 minutes. I appreciate all of you who have stuck around this long. And I hope you'll leave comments if you do have some additional questions, and I'll try to get to those as well. So I appreciate you hanging out with me today. I'm going to go ahead and cut it short here, guys. It's almost 9 o'clock my time, and it's getting close for me to get into bed. I got to get up early tomorrow and get to work on getting this fence started on, and then I'm going to be doing it all day Sunday with my brother-in-law. And I still got to find a way to get some videos out for you guys this weekend too. So I got to get some rest. Yeah, a 10-hour live stream would be great, Ellie. I don't know how Carrie does those 24-hour live streams. It would be fantastic if I could do some of those. But maybe once I'm doing this full time, it'll be easier to do something like that. Thank you, Pula. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around. I did enjoy the chat as well. You guys have a good one. I'll see you next time.